Hello and welcome everyone back to another special episode of Heart of the Cast. My name's Farfa and I'm joined by Mr. Joshua Schmidt.
Hello.
And our special guest this week, you're being spoiled with the special guests. We've got Yu-Gi-Oh! Content creator extraordinaire, Hearthstone side game, Raran.
Sword Soul's strongest soldier.
Sword Soul's strongest soldier.
Yeah, I'm kind of sick at it, not gonna lie.
When was the last time you touched Yu-Gi-Oh? Is it actually since the last uploads?
It's been I can't. When did I do that video? February. So February.
Oh wow.
I haven't even looked at it. The last thing I did with Yu-Gi-Oh was with you in MBT, but that was like not even Yu-Gi-Oh related, right?
Okay, quick trivia. What is the best normal summon in Sword Soul?
Mogi, no problems.
Yes!
I had to dig deep there. I'm gonna be honest.
I had to wait for chat to update.
No, listen, I have played so many card games recently. I have to go through like the database, and then I got to filter it by Yu-Gi-Oh, and then I got to filter it by the deck. It's just too much.
Yeah, he's
not copy, by the way.
He's used to having like 7 cards in a format because there's no rotation in our game. It requires actual skill and memory.
We're starting good right on the bat. Okay, we're fighting. Good.
Okay, so we usually yap a little bit for the first 10 minutes before we get into a structured, detailed sort of itinerary of discussion points, which I've definitely prepared mentally about 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, the stuff that you've been briefed on, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
but first of all, I would love to provide some context for everyone here. Raran, or whose perspective should we get this from? Let's get it from yours first, Raran. What is your first interaction with the world champion of Yu-Gi-Oh?
Josh, was it you in my chat? Was it you?
What?
Was it you? Okay, I'm not sure who it was, but like I remember streaming Sword Soul, and then I thought it was you in chat based on what other chatters said.
And what did he say to you in chat?
And you said to me, yo, like, would you like to get like trained or whatever, or would you like some coaching or something by you? I don't know if it was you. I think it was you based on what chat said. Okay, wasn't you?
No, that wasn't me.
Yeah.
I'm hearing that for the first time.
I thought it was you. And someone in my chat was like, did you actually just not take advice from the world champion himself? And I felt so bad because I was like, wow, I really just told this guy, no, I don't need you.
No, that was me. Maybe it was Quantal.
It was
okay.
Quantal.
Chat is saying it was Quantal.
Okay, that's still just as funny. That the world champion of Yu-Gi-Oh! Masadu was in your Twitch chat offering to help you with Sword Soul, and you said, I'm good.
Wait, is Quantal also a... Oh,
it was the Master Duel World Championship is a team tournament. It's a 3v3.
Oh, and he was part of your team?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Okay.
I told him no, I'm good. Didn't even know who he was. To be fair, there was like 800 people telling me in chat what I should do. So some rando.
I didn't know the same thing if Quantal was in my chat. It's fine.
You know what the worst part is too? And I feel so bad about this. I feel like this is the first time I've actually heard Quantal's name, and I had to Google search them.
Wow.
I mean, he would have told you to normal summon Moyi and right click, so it's fine.
Oh, okay. So we're chill.
We're chill. That is a third lower level of hit and runs we're doing here, Josh. Okay. Yeah, so that's your introduction into Yu-Gi-Oh! That you didn't think to find out who the world champion was before making 2 or 3 videos discrediting and making fun of our game. But that's fine. That's whatever. That's whatever.
Do I need to conduct or contact a world championship to know how bad Yu-Gi-Oh! is? I don't think so.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Players will usually give you like this gatekeeping itinerary of like a 7-point like step thing that you need to follow before you're allowed to criticize Yu-Gi-Oh! And apparently doing a full Salmon Great combo is one of them.
Yes.
Listen, we don't have to discuss. Listen, I'm a changed man. I had an epiphany.
He's one of us now.
I've established why you guys like this game, at least as far as I'm concerned. And I reached Diamond, which is, you know what? Good enough for me.
I honestly think if you kept playing, you could have hit Master, but you didn't want to keep pushing, which understandably so after your maxi realization.
It's just time, man. It's just time. There's too much other stuff I want to do. And there's only so much Yu-Gi-Oh! A man can handle in a week before I go insane. I don't know how you guys do
it. So as a small introductory course here, do you want to tell us really quick, I suppose, on a personal level, a little bit about how you started content creation and card games in general?
Oh, God. You want me to go that far back?
Yeah, let's hear the deep lore.
Right. Okay, so the year was 2011. 2011, maybe a little later,
Okay.
give or take a year. I can't remember. Do you guys know who CNanners is by chance?
No.
Oh God. Oh my God. He is a Minecraft. He was like the first person I saw play Minecraft. I'm sure people in your communities know who CNanners is. Anyways, goated guy, saw him play Minecraft, and I said, wow, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. So I actually really tried to be a Call of Duty YouTuber for a really long time. I've deleted all those things. I didn't bother try. I hope so.
Oh, baby, a triple.
Anyways, dude, listen, you may not see it, but I was dropping nukes daily.
Oh,
Like, I was popping off. And then my world shattered.
Kill streaks, bro.
My world shattered when I was introduced to League of Legends in season 2 of the game. And after that, I tried to be a League of Legends like streamer, but like that was really saturated. Also, I was dog shit at the game. Can I swear on this, by the way? Got no briefing.
Yeah, that's all right.
I'll keep it friendly if I need to. Yeah, so League ruined my life for a while. Did try streaming, and then during one time, it was like second year of university, I think.
What were you studying? I'm curious. I'm trying to think. Like, let me see if I can get the area. I don't think it was a STEM subject.
What the hell is STEM? Is that like psychology?
No, it's like science, maths is like a STEM subject.
Oh, I was there.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. That was your degree, and you don't know what the term STEM is? Is this like a UK thing?
You think I was playing League?
Did you graduate?
I did graduate.
No, that's fair enough.
Okay, well, what's your degree?
I have a degree in computer science and a specialization in mobile computing.
Oh shit! Isn't that literally your degree without the second part, Josh? Aren't you comp sci?
Yeah, I'm a software engineer. Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Were you a software engineer before you went pro Yu-Gi-Oh, Josh, or no?
No. I just finished university like 2 years ago.
Oh shit. Okay. Oh my God.
Josh, can you say something to Raran comp sci related that I wouldn't understand, but he would?
No. It's been too many years, bro.
Dude, don't put me on the spot like that. What's the point of that?
Okay, that's
you want me to talk about him talk to him about like C# or something? What was your favorite programming language?
I could actually have a conversation on that, but if you ask me specifics, I'd be like, fuck, man. It's been too long.
So what is your favorite programming language?
Well, I wanted to be an iOS developer, which is what I got like a job in after I was finished school. So my favorite language is Swift, which is like Python.
But the only Swift I know is Taylor Swift, but you guys can continue.
Nice.
So you're both Swifties, but in different ways.
Yeah.
Not even.
Why? I've seen chat make fun of iOS, and I don't know why. I fucking loved it. It was so fun. It was the only programming language where I was like, yeah, I get it. Because the rest of, oh my God.
Isn't it because like it's like the simplest one or something?
Basically, okay. The problem with coding is that you have a lot of language. You have to put like semicolons to like end your lines, and a lot of the time that can just mess you up because if you miss like a single thing, you run the compiler and it's like, oh, you have an error. Swift is like, oh, you don't have to worry about that. Like you just do your code and then it's a lot easier to figure out what you did wrong. But God, older languages, like if you miss one thing, you're stuck for maybe 3 hours and you're like, what am I doing? And
as someone who has no idea about coding, like Raran basically just said, like, yeah, if you don't pay the cost, it's like really bad. That's the closest relation I could make this.
That is not okay. Well, anyways,
I assume coding doesn't have costs and effects, but yeah,
they
can.
Yeah. So where did the
there's no maxi in coding. That's you can't put Yu-Gi-Oh on everything, Farva.
You can try. So where did the card game come from?
Oh, I used to play a game called Chaotic, which is like a really old TV show that was on Canadian broadcast. I don't know if it was like on any other.
Oh, I think you mentioned this like on like when we were dueling, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my name comes from that game. It's like there was a creature called Rarin. And we used to go to like our local card shop to play it. And then I realized how expensive card games are because like when you're young, like $10 a pack or whatever it is like ridiculous. Like it's so much money.
Yeah.
And I was like, why would I buy money on cards when I could just play League of Legends? So, definitely definitely made some good decisions there. But then Hearthstone came out and I was like, oh my God, this is what I've been waiting for my entire life. A card game where I don't have to physically have someone else to play with and I can play wherever I want. And that like really catapulted my interest into card games. I was really bad when I first started, but look at me now, absolutely goated. so even I deleted all my older videos, but if you go look, like I was definitely not great.
Why'd
But
you delete your older videos?
I have this weird idea that like if someone comes to my channel, I want like a perfected portfolio. So if you go back and look at my older videos, they're like, what the hell is this guy doing? Because like I'm sure when both of you first started, like you will go look back and you're cringing, right? Like there's no way you guys were just like, oh, I'm the best content creator that's ever done it from the very beginning. Like there's some rough moments for sure.
No, I see where you're coming from. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like you're like cringing either though. It's just like you could do better looking in hindsight now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely get that, but at the same time, it's like I haven't privated or anything any of my older videos just because I feel like it's nice to have that collection of that history to be able to see that growth and stuff like that. I think it'd be strange for someone to like look at a video from 7 years ago and then be like, wow, this Farfar content creator sucks because like the mic is shit, the editing is bad.
Oh, I mean, you're always more critical of yourself than others.
That's also very true. But what were you doing, right? Were you just doing gameplay videos or were you actually like putting like effort into it?
Genuinely, I have done everything in Yu-Gi-Oh! I've tried like documentary style things, informative content, funny content. Like I've tried everything, and I guess nowadays I've settled to where I'm at now, which is like a sort of kind of mix of like mostly entertainment-based content rather than competitive style content. I think is kind of where I've settled these days.
Okay, I'm looking back at your older videos. Yeah, so I just want to see what you did because my older videos were like, this is this deck during this meta game, and this is how you play it. It's just gameplay, right? It's not like exciting to go look back on. It's just like here's this really bad content creator trying to like show you how to play a deck that no one's watching. So
yeah, I think I had like a frog gameplay in like 2014 or something, which is like I think that's just not a
2024. What do you mean?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, at the same time though, if it's like super outdated, does it really matter if it's still there?
That was my logic.
I guess
no one was watching the older stuff, right?
I guess
so. That's why I deleted it. I don't have any regrets on it for the record. I wish I kept like my very first video because then I could literally go back and see how far I've come. But
did you delete or did you like unlist? I guess you deleted.
I had privated it, right?
I legitimately delete all of them because here's my problem is I don't know about you, Josh. Like I don't know how much you really focus on YouTube. But like I'm very analytical. So when I look back at like stats and videos, I don't actually want them to be a part of it. Like I want to have like a very good subsection of like what is doing well, what isn't doing well. So I literally deleted all of it so I don't have to look at the stats of those videos. Okay. So when I look at like my oldest video, it is somewhat recent where I could start comparing it to current videos and see how far I've come rather than like here's my very first video and I sucked. I mean, in hindsight, maybe I should have kept it private, like for sure. But whatever.
I mean, yeah, I get that. Can't you just like use the analytics tool and exclude some of the stuff manually? Like you could just be looking at the stats from like
but then
last
you gotta
year.
do that for so long, like to find like a good range. Anyways, we're not gonna go through this.
Okay, and I get it. It's fine.
What was I talking about?
Yeah, so it's your first jump into like content creation was through Hearthstone because you really wanted to play a card game, but it was like kind of budget that was like
that's actually not true. That's actually not true. My first jump into content creation. Well, so Chaotic was my first card game.
Yeah.
But my very first content creation, like huge moment was with a game called Mario Tennis Aces, which is for the Nintendo Switch. And I was top 5 in the world. I was really fucking good at that game. It was so fun. If you have not played Mario Tennis Aces for your Switch and you have it, go play it. It is like it sounds cringe, but it's so competitive. It is a crazy well-made game. I was insane at it. I loved it.
And does it still like exist? Does it still have competition?
I think it still has an online.
It looks fairly like semi-modern as well. It doesn't look.
When did it came out like 2018, 2019?
Chat's asking for your main.
Oh, okay. I made I started with Waluigi, but he was like OP. I forget who I went to after. He was broken because he's so fucking tall. So like nothing can get past him.
Is there like stats and stuff for the different characters?
Yes.
Do they have like?
Oh, there's a meta game, man. His reach was nuts.
I feel like that's the case for almost any game out there, dude. Like,
yeah, but like tennis.
Yeah,
dude,
but like
it was competitive. It was crazy. It was actually insane, dude. You want to hear like a really cringe story? And my friend still reminds me of this. I was so addicted to that game that they invited me to a party, and I brought my Switch so I can min max that game. Like I was in it.
Dude, that reminds me of 1 year. I was trying to qualify for the BlizzCon qualifier in Hearthstone, and I had to keep checking my rank at a New Year's party because it was really important that I would finish like top 10.
Oh yeah, okay.
And I grinded all the way up to like I think it was like top 5 or something, and I had to keep checking on whether someone would overtake me. I didn't actually have to play, but so it was just me
Yeah.
constantly in the corner checking for my rank. But yeah.
That meme, like they don't know I'm a competitive Hearthstone
Yeah.
player.
Just in the corner. Wait, so you can check your rank, and then I guess like similar to Mastodon, right? And when you do the qualifier,
Yeah,
if your score drops, you have to go in like queue, I suppose. Is it
Essentially, I was like I don't know 5th in Europe or whatever on the leaderboard, right? And I could go into the game on my phone and see if my rank has changed. And if it would change, I would have to go and play.
Was
But
it live or was it like Mastodon where it's like every
no, it's
period?
live. In Hearthstone it's live. You can see your own
Oh,
rank
that's
at all times.
awful. You must just be sitting there like
Yeah,
constantly like, oh. At least in Mastodon they give you like an hour to just like stop checking the ranking.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway,
Okay.
tell us about this Mario Tennis video that popped
Okay.
off apparently.
Well, it didn't pop off. I was just like, basically one day I just tried the beta and I streamed it and I really liked it, so I just continued streaming it. I had like good viewership for a while, and I was gonna try to carry that
What were
momentum.
you streaming on, by the way? Was it Twitch?
Yeah, it was Twitch. It was Twitch.
Was it Twitch at the time, or was it like Justin TV? I can't.
No,
I don't know how
it's
long
Twitch.
ago it was. Okay.
Tennis came out in like I think 2018. It was not
that's
that
fairly
long
recent.
ago.
Wait, that's way after Hearthstone though.
Yeah, like I was addicted to League of Legends, and I wasn't.
Oh,
very
so
good
you
at...
started playing Hearthstone, but you didn't create
Yeah,
content.
yeah.
Okay.
Here's the problem with so I was a very late bloomer when it came to puberty, so my voice was very high for very long. And every time I tried to do something, like the first comment I would always read is like, "Why is this 5-year-old making content?"
Oh no!
So, like that hits you in a weird way because
so
it's not like,
mean.
hey, I can do anything about it, but like I also understand why would you, like in hindsight, it's like why would anyone want to listen to like that? It's fine, whatever. So anyways, what happened was I always really liked Hearthstone, and I had to do my thesis the last year of university, so that I had to stop I had to stop streaming because Josh, I don't know if you had to do a thesis for yours or what you did for your final year, but like the thesis took so much time that I just didn't have time to do anything. After that was over, I moved out with my girlfriend, and I was like, oh, she's at school still, so I have so much time to do it on my own. So I was like, I'm gonna start playing Hearthstone and like making content on it, mainly because of the fact that none of my friends played Hearthstone anymore, but B, like I still genuinely loved the game. And it was like a really good time to get back into it because Hearthstone does rotations like a proper card game should. So I was like, this is a good moment to get in.
Holy burn.
This is a good moment to get in. And then I hit the jackpot in a sense of like when COVID happened, Demon Hunter was released, which was the first Hearthstone class ever made. So like as someone who looked at stats and I was like, this is my time to really get into the moment. So I went full time in like a year and like a month because of that perfect storm in a sense. Obviously COVID sucked, but like in the case
say that part
like
again. You went full time in a year in a month?
Yeah, a year and a month.
Oh, okay.
Like around that time. It didn't take me very long. I was very lucky, but I also did like basically like Hearthstone doesn't have this is my biggest envy from Yu-Gi-Oh! From a Hearthstone creator is you guys have this really good sense of community. Like all of you guys are together and you work together to make content. Hearthstone's really like siloed in the sense of like we don't really communicate with one another. It's like, yeah, this guy streams and then I stream. So when you when you start as a Hearthstone content creator, you really have to understand that like you got to do something different because most of these people are doing the exact same thing anyways. So my philosophy was let me do 3 deck guides a day and just get into the algorithm as much as possible. And that was like my goal, which really worked out for me because like I wasn't the guy known for my personality yet. I was known for if you want a deck to play, this is the deck you're going to play. I did that for like 2 years. And then they released one of the worst expansions. I mean, the worst expansion of all time in 2021.
Is that the odd even thing?
No, that was 2018 for that one.
Wow, that was wild.
Stormin was basically Yu-Gi-Oh, but Hearthstone. Like you would die really, really fast. Josh, I don't know when you were trying to compete for Hearthstone, but Stormin was my least favorite.
The year I got the closest to making it to BlizzCon was the Grim Patron Freeze Mage.
Oh, okay. So that was time. That was time ago. Okay.
Yeah. It was like 2015, 16 or around that time.
That was a good. I missed those years.
Oh yes.
Stormwind sucked ass. I hated it with all my heart. So I the last month of that year, I was like, I'd rather be a full-time iOS developer, make more money, and not worry about like financial outcome because Stormwind really affected the game. In
That
like
bad. Wow.
it was it was very raw. Like I also, in hindsight, right, like COVID and Demon Hunter really exploded viewership for probably everyone. Like you guys probably even felt the effect, right? Like especially if you were a creator during that time, you probably saw significant more growth, more viewership, just because
Oh
everyone
no,
was
I
at
wasn't.
home.
Josh is a fairly recent content creator, but he's
Oh, okay,
played the
okay.
game for a while. But for me personally, like, yeah, some of my best streams and numbers and stuff was COVID for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of people noticed that. I obviously being like a new content creator during that time, I was like, oh, this is gonna last forever. It didn't last forever, right? And then Blizzard got hit with like their sexual allegation like stuff, and that the same year Stormwind came out, and then Mercenaries, their like gacha game mode really sucked. So it was just a lot of like negatives all at once, and I was like, this isn't worth financially like causing me so much stress. So I was like, I'd rather be an iOS developer, and then that month I was like, I had 2 sponsorships and I said to myself, I'm going to try something completely different and see how it goes. And like, that's why I ended up here because I like legitimately tried. So then in 2022, I spent 10 hours a day minimum writing, editing, posting a video. And I did that every day for like 5 months until I was finally at a point where I didn't have to worry about like income as much because I was so worried I wasn't
What kind
going
of
to be able
stuff
to
were
do
you
this anymore.
posting?
Those videos are still there. Those are like documentaries or like like Hearthstone almost died from this expansion, or my most viewed video is why one card almost broke a card game. And that's like that video hit 1 million views like a month ago or 2 months ago at this point.
What was
Which
the
card
card?
is it about?
I was Nas Dormu. The
Is that the rope card?
Yeah, makes 15 seconds. Your turn is
Yeah.
15 seconds long, and then people, without spoiling the entire video, people would cheese like the animation times because Hearthstone's animations continue
Oh, I
on your
remember
opponent's
that.
turn.
Yeah.
So
No, when you
you could
would
do
play
some
when you have a
really,
bunch of stuff that triggers at the end of the turn, right?
yeah, you could cheese people with it. And
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
so
yeah.
much more that continued on for Hearthstone's life. Like even like 8 years later, that card was still causing problems because of animations and stuff. So, and Blizzard, like, I don't think they ever fixed it, but the card is no longer in standard that you can't really like do anything with it anymore. But there was like really big moments where like people would win because of that card. It was pretty weird.
All right.
So it's basically Zarimi.
Is what?
It's basically Zarimi, isn't it?
The new wait, you're talking about the Hearthstone card, right? Not
Yeah.
the okay. Not necessarily.
Well, it's the
Zarimi,
same.
like,
You just skip your opponent's turn.
well, Zarimi gives you an extra turn.
Yeah.
So you get to play it again, where Nostormo like literally skipped your opponent's turn. Like they didn't get their chance to play the game,
I guess.
even though it was their turn. But yeah, I get what you mean. I get what you mean. That's my story.
Did people get banned for that?
No, I don't
Really?
think so.
It's this very gray area in Hearthstone, I feel like, where it's not people's fault that the game is coded that way, that like the end of turn animations takes away from your opponent's turn timer.
Yeah. Also, if it gets like
Oh.
randomly generated, like what are you gonna do? Not play towards a win condition? Like that's the biggest problem, right? Like if it randomly comes on board, you're like, okay, now I gotta actually play the game. Like, do you know Life Coach, Farfa? Do you know who that is?
That clip is hilarious, dude.
Yeah,
It's so funny.
No.
So context for people who don't know, Life Coach was a Hearthstone. Like he's obviously much bigger than he is now, but when he played competitive Hearthstone, he would take his full 90 seconds every single time because in his mind, it's like I might as well use that time to make the best possible turn every single turn.
Oh, even like turn 1 when you have literally like no play.
Literally.
There's a clip of Trump reacting to him taking his full turn, like actually like audibly sighing because he's like, what is he doing? Like, it's not like this is like complicated. So then he had a game against him where Nas Dorma was played like randomly and he just didn't know what to do because he wasn't ready for it. And he lost that game because of it.
This thing.
Like, it's not like people ran
At least 50% of it was just tilting the opponent, though, I feel like.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That had to have been part of it.
It's the mind game. I'm not sure if I like missed this, but why did you decide like Hearthstone was what you're gonna make content about? Because you must have been at a crossroad between League and Hearthstone, I suppose, right? Because
yeah.
Because you mentioned it was oversaturated, but like you could have done what you did in Hearthstone, which is like different type of content for League potentially, no?
Sure. Year 3 for university, I had to stop playing League, like because it just take too much time. And League of Legends is a game that like sucks you in.
When
Like
you
it
say
really like
take, like you had to stop, was there like almost like an intervention of sorts that
no. It's just
like cold
like
turkey or?
I was like, hey, like this is something I can't do anymore because like I need to make sure my grades are like in a good spot to make sure I can continue doing this. Like it wasn't like I was failing or anything. It was just like you have to get over that hump.
Hmm.
So I played it a lot less. I just didn't have time. And I started seeing like my girlfriend, obviously. So like, I picked like a girl over League of Legends, which was a great decision. Um, so then by the time I got to like my final year of university, I was still playing Hearthstone. I wasn't playing League. So then I was like, okay, I'll just continue playing Hearthstone. Also, Hearthstone was like really fun. Like I really liked Hearthstone. It was a really good year for Hearthstone when it came to Rise of Shadows. So it was like the
Which is that?
perfect storm for it. Again,
Like,
Shadows are
remind me of that
rising
format.
again,
Which one are we talking?
darker
Rise of
than they've
Shadows.
ever been.
Yeah, that one. Rise
Oh,
of
it's so
Shadows was
good.
like the year after Gen and Baku were rotated. Like that rotation was like a really good moment for Hearthstone because it was just a really good year. They had an overarching storyline with like the Rise of Shadows versus the League Explorers. I don't know if you played during this time. It was just
Oh,
what a
that,
good
I
what was
year
his
for
remember
name?
League of
Omega.
Explorers for sure.
The warlock. What was his name? The evil guy.
Rafam.
Rafal. Oh, dude. Yeah, that
It
was
was, it was a
cool
good
lore
year.
wise and stuff. I love
Wasn't
like the
Rafam the
stories.
guy that replaced your entire stuff with legendaries?
Yeah, they basically Hearthstone has this problem of making new characters. Like I don't think they've ever really been able to do it. So they keep bringing back League of Explorers and League of Evil, and Rafan's usually the leader of League of Evil, and then
Yeah.
Reno's like the main guy for the League of Explorers.
Yeah.
Keep bringing that back, yeah.
League of Evil. Really creative on the name there. I wonder who the bad guys are. The League of Evil. Okay. I think
Hey,
it
man.
stands for something. Isn't it like actually an acronym?
I don't know if it actually is.
I thought it was. Okay.
Um,
Okay, so I want to ask Josh what your thoughts on Hearthstone were, like from a competitive standpoint when you were playing it, like mechanically and stuff, because you were very into it and obviously really good at some point.
I mean, I enjoyed it for a lot of the same reasons that he mentioned, where like you can just play it from home very comfortable, which is something that for Yu-Gi-Oh before Master Duel was not something we actually had, right? We didn't have ways to actually play from home without having physical cards and having friends over or whatever. And I spent a lot of time that I look back on very fondly of like hanging out with some people in it wasn't Discord at the time. I don't know what we used. But like some sort of call, and we were hanging out and playing Hearthstone together, and it was really really fun. From a competitive standpoint, I think it has it like any card game, it has its highs and lows. I've always looked from my perspective, it always felt like it was a more it to me it felt easier, but maybe that's also because I had been playing Yu-Gi-Oh for 15 years at the time already or whatever, right? So I don't want to stir that pot right now. But I always felt like there was at certain points it had a lot more randomness involved with all this like random creation and end of turn Ragnaros or whatever, Sylvanas Steel or whatever. It had a lot of those aspects, which I felt like Hearthstone was always the more enjoyable game if you didn't want to take it as seriously. It's like the perfect game to play and not try hard too much, because I always felt like there's been periods where I was try harding and that became frustrating after a while sometimes, because it just like sometimes it just like doesn't go your way, I feel like. But I always had like whenever I was not super invested but rather just like play on and off and just try to have some fun with it, I think it's like the perfect game for that, right? The casual play at home, play with friends, and all that kind of stuff. I really like it, which I think that's why it's also so successful on like the in comparison to other online card games.
Yeah, that's interesting that you've sort of focused on the variance and the randomness of it, and I think that's probably a good description because it's such a fun game when I think you aren't trying to min max it because of all the reasons you mentioned. But the high
try
highs.
to min max a Yoxeron, dude.
Was there anything that you see as like some of the major, like what are some of the most frustrating moments for you when trying to play Rauran, Hearthstone specifically?
But Hearthstone,
yeah, like
that's
historically
what
or
you're
even
asking.
today.
Okay, well, I'll get to later. I'll get to today later. Hearthstone, I think Josh is right. Like when you start to play professional Hearthstone, I think that's when it starts becoming really annoying because the game is designed for like, in my opinion, it's designed for like 2 hours a day, right? Like you play the variance is what makes it exciting because each game plays it differently. And back in the day, the way that they did RNG was really like sometimes RNG would just roll you, and other times it would be like your best friend. They really leaned into it. There's a card called, Josh, you probably remember, it's called Implosion. It's my least
Oh yeah.
favorite card of
Oh
all
man.
time. Farfo, if you don't know what it is, it's like
Oh,
it would
wait. Let me
say,
try. Let me try and remember. Is it a warlock card?
Yeah.
yeah, it's a Warlock card. Yep.
Okay, what does it do?
It said deal 2 to 4 damage, summon imps equal to the damage that you dealt. But you didn't know how much damage it was going to do before you played the card.
Mm-hmm.
So that variance mattered so much because it could dictate the game. Like if
Yeah.
you hit the 4 and you summon 4 imps, like you might as well just lost. But then the reverse would happen. You'd be like, why did they design a card like this? They haven't done that since. Like that was the only expansion where they did that kind of nonsense. But like there was RNG like that in the early days of Hearthstone, which wasn't great, especially for competitive Hearthstone. But as a viewer, it was very exciting to watch.
I mean, yeah, dude. If a Ragnaros hits face when the opponent is on like 8 life and has 7 minions and is gonna kill you next turn, otherwise, like that's just such a hype moment to watch.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I think what Hearthstone really did and they leaned into was like the memorable moments in a card game. I don't know if Yu-Gi-Oh has the same concept, but like you never forget the moment where like Rag hit that 1 in 7. Like that was a huge moment, like especially the first time it happened. And competitive was awesome to do. I think Yu-Gi-Oh. Go for it.
It's very comparable. Sorry for interrupting. I was just it just came up to me. It's very comparable to the Exodia moment that happened like a couple months ago at some YCS, which is like a super high roll, should never happen, right? But someone assembled Exodia FTK twice on stream at a
Yeah.
YCS, and it's just like one of the most memorable moments, right? That is not it's not a perfect image of competitive Yu-Gi-Oh or whatever, right? But it's that's the stuff that you remember, right?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Because like the problem with I would imagine with Yu-Gi-Oh currently is that it's very consistent. Like once you get the critical mass, like Snake Eyes when I was playing, from what I could tell, like they just hit the nuts, like you're just over. Game's done. Where like at least with the variants in Hearthstone, sometimes you had an out that you could play for that you would remember for a while. That's what like probably the biggest concern with Yu-Gi-Oh is for a lot of people who don't want to get into it, because you have to understand so much about the consistency of a deck, which makes it obviously very, very like daunting to get into, speaking from personal experience. Um, the problem with Hearthstone right now is that they've really leaned into consistency and draw. One of the ways that they balanced classes before was like some classes had draw, other classes don't. Every single class in Hearthstone now has a way of consistently drawing to their very good cards, which means the variance isn't there nearly as much. And more importantly, like games end a lot faster in Hearthstone. And because cards are hitting the point where like effects are so good they can win the game on the spot, it leads this like it makes you wish the game was a little slower than what it used to be, which is like unfortunate, because if you're someone who really liked the older days of Hearthstone, it's never going to be like that ever again, because the cards are just too strong. But that's the current problem with Hearthstone, which is during Storm, and it was at its absolute peak when you would just die on turn like 4, which you don't, a lot of people don't play Hearthstone to die on turn 4. People play Hearthstone for like the variants and the RNG and like the fun effects that you could do. But like when you're dying that fast, it really takes away what Hearthstone wants to do. And because we don't have hand traps, if your opponent just gets the cards, like you're like, okay, I just lose. So it doesn't, it's not as bad as it used to be. Like Stormwind was rough. People obviously liked it. They tried it, and then I think they learned from it. But my God, it was a rough time.
I just wanted to bring up iconic moments, because one memory that super always stuck with me was Toast doing the OTK with the randomly generated, I think it was Yogg-Saron, randomly generating into Mechacthun, into Deathwing, into a win condition. That is like literally 1 in a million. So yeah, I can see that appeal for sure. But competitively, that seems like one of the most worst things that could ever happen to you.
I don't
There's
know how
another-
people think about it.
There's another thing that Hearthstone has over other card games, for example, over Master Duel, is that because it's not based on a physical card game, right? They have a lot more design space to design crazy stuff, right? Like you can't add cards from outside of the game to a game of Yu-Gi-Oh because those cards can't be physically there, right? In Hearthstone, you can just say summon a card from the pool of all the 2-drops or all the 5-drops or all whatever, right? Like create a random spell in your hand. You can't do that in a game that's based on physical cards, right? Because what are you going to do? Like put the entire collection and roll a dice. But it's like that sort of stuff obviously that's what creates highlights, right? It's like, oh, he got that one 5-drop out of all the 50 different 5-drops in that situation that actually wins him the game, right? That's something you can't do in other games.
Yeah. I think Magic Arena has like virtual cards only
Yeah,
for a
they have a
specific
lot of
format.
specific digital only cards, which I
Yeah.
was going to ask you. Did you ever try any of the duel trials in Master Duel? They're like these sort of like tavern brawlish style side events that aren't unranked.
I'm gonna go with no.
Okay,
They don't ring
so
it.
there was basically like a couple events recently where you would queue into a game, and for example, the rules of the game would change. So you could one of the duel trials was you get 2 normal summons instead of 1. There was another duel trial where both players start with skill drain face up on the field. And like Josh said, I think like design space and exploring something like that could definitely give the game a lot more interest, I suppose. But yeah, I was just curious if you played it, but I guess if you haven't tried it, then it's obviously
No, that sounds like Hearthstone has something called Tavern Brawls, which is like they change the rules weekly. That's exactly what it sounds like.
But how
You
popular
guys
is
don't
Tavern
have
Brawls?
well, oh my god, dude, I'm gonna go on a rant for this one.
You're not a fan?
No, listen, I as a content creator and as someone who's been playing Hearthstone for 10 years, the fact that they don't have custom games in the game itself blows my mind. Because Tavern Brawls showed that people truly have a desire to change the rules of Hearthstone, right? And they have in the back end like a way to make custom games because they do it for Tavern Brawls, but they haven't given the UI or a way for people to do it in their game, which blows my mind. Like, I think it'd be really cool for it to be like Hearthstone, but you start at like 100 health and you always start with a guarantee card in your hand, just for like an example, right? Or Hearthstone, but you don't have a deck, you only have the cards in your opening hand and you see who wins from that position. Anyways, the possibilities are endless. They haven't done that. But what they're doing with Tavern Ball now is they're just rehashing older ideas over and over and over again. So like when Tavern Ball first came out, the popularity was insane. Josh, you could probably back me up. Like people loved it.
We were the same. Like we would try every week to come up with like interesting stuff for the different rule sets. Like we would do that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And then nowadays they just rehash it over and over again. On my YouTube channel, there is like a series where I call it like custom format videos, where I'm basically using it as like hopefully a portfolio to like show to the people at Blizzard, like give us a way for custom games because this is what people want. Because like those are like my most successful videos, like weekly. And
I've always wondered, by the way, how do you do that? Is it just like in PvE? Because I've never actually sat down and watched it, but I've always seen like titles show up on my recommend, and it's like Hearthstone, but something something, or Hearthstone, but
no, it's PvP versus someone else most of the time. Like sometimes it's like a tavern brawl that we just do the rules for. But like for instance, like I did one that Hearthstone, but the board is banned. It's just like we have like a gentleman's agreement of like you can't interact with the board. Any card that summons or anything like that, you can't use.
Okay.
And like we use that to the best of our ability because obviously I don't have the capabilities of changing it.
I'm taking notes, by the way, just FYI.
It's fine. That's fine. You could do it for Yu-Gi-Oh. It's actually really, really good. Because like I'm not sure how Yu-Gi-Oh would do with no board. I'm sure it'd be still like degenerate as hell. But it's interesting that like that one little change changes how you build decks and how you interact with your opponent. Right. So it'd be the possibilities with Yu-Gi-Ohs are also really interesting because there's so many different mechanics that Hearthstone doesn't have. Like I can give you one right off the rip, right? Like Yu-Gi-Oh, but you can't use your graveyard, right? Like how does that change the game? In the sense of like
you would probably have to play a bunch of different things. But the problem with Yu-Gi-Oh is like there would just be like a bunch of stupid like, oh, I can't use my graveyard, fine, I'll play Flunder, and like, you know, it would probably just degenerate into like some
I mean it all basically just equates to a different sort of it's just a custom ban list, isn't it?
Yeah, that's basically how it would work with Yu-Gi-Oh.
At the end of the day, it's just like you ban all the cards that interact with the graveyard, and then you play.
Like, I think it was like a year and a half ago or 2 years ago. I have a video on my channel called Yu-Gi-Oh, but you're not allowed to negate. So all of the negate cards were banned, and it's like one of my like highest viewed videos. Which again, like you said, shows that there's a desire for the community to like create their own rule sets and stuff like that. But yeah, it did like really well. So I think yeah, you're onto something.
Listen, it also bothers me more because every other game besides World of Warcraft that Blizzard has released has like a custom game format. Like League of Legends wouldn't exist without Warcraft custom games, right? Overwatch 2 has custom games. Like it's, I don't know why purposely in Hearthstone they haven't given it when like people really want it. So anyways, my hope is eventually they add it to the game. I would really appreciate it. I think it'd be cool. I'm also like, there's a lot of stuff in Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel that I wish Hearthstone had. Like we can't go back and look at a replay in game, which I think is insane because that sounds really fun. We can't.
Yeah, true.
There's no hub of like seeing what people are playing. Like I really like the fact that you can go watch people's games and see what's going on because you do that with like your videos, right? Where you like go watch people's games and see what like wacky deck they're playing.
Yeah, I mean, you can host like rooms and stuff, which Hearthstone doesn't have. The closest thing is like HS Replay, where they give you like almost like a picture PowerPoint form of a replay, right? Because I think on HS Replay you can literally watch live games, but it's like in a really shitty text form.
I mean, you can spectate Hearthstone games, right? But you have to be friends with the person playing, and then you have to spectate.
And only live as well.
Yeah,
only live. Yeah, there's a Hearthstone's like old, but it's interesting how they make their decisions of like what features they want to add compared to what they don't. But Master Duel being like what 2021, 2022, I think it was released.
2022.
Yeah, I think they probably definitely looked at like what they would need to do from Hearthstone and utilize because like I think like replays really matter in Yu-Gi-Oh. Like me and Farfa like did it together where we had to go through and ask ourselves, or at least he asked me like, why did you do this or what's more important about this? Like it helped a lot. Where Hearthstone's like, yeah, the replay would be really nice, but like, do most people care about it? Because we have to think about like what the audience of Hearthstone is. But I am jealous of that feature. I think it'd be cool.
To be fair, we also have our points that we would really like to be added to Master Duel, like especially when it comes to custom game modes and customizing your games and all that. We've been saying like these things that Farfa mentioned of like we have these special events, but they only last for 3 days, and you can't use the rule set in your own private games.
And
you can only do it if you join that game mode, right?
And the reward is 1 pack.
Yes, I mean that's literally I think the same for Tavern Brawl though.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's about that much. Like it's more about the ability to play with something. If you think it's fun, having the ability to play that past that specific event window would be nice.
You can't do custom games for it while it's there, or like friendly matches.
For these 3-day trial things, you can't even set it as the rule set for like a dual room that you're opening. No,
that's crazy.
Yeah, it's rough that way.
Not even while it's running. Like but man. So we have the same frustrations.
It's interesting when we share ideas like this. We could probably just create like a super game if they just like. It almost feels obvious to us, which makes me beg the question, like, what are the developers doing? Because surely they have like market research into other card games and what they're doing and what's good and positive and negative about their card games, etc. And they would implement.
I think there's just someone somewhere sitting there and saying like the cost of developing this is higher than the
for sure.
Yeah, it's all money, right? It's always a shareholder problem.
But I can make a pitch for it right now. Ready for this?
Oh yeah. What's the cook?
If you have a custom format that is so good that requires people to buy older cards, they would spend money to buy those cards. Because if the format is that fun, you'd be interested in, right?
I have been saying that ever since. Like Time Wizard, I don't know if you're aware of that, but like Yu-Gi-Oh! Has Time Wizard tournaments IRL with like where people go back and play some of their favorite formats from back in the day. And it's booming. Like people love that because there's a lot of people that think modern Yu-Gi-Oh is too fast and all that, and they really want to go back and relive those nostalgic older formats, and it's popping off. Like the card prices are going through the roof for some of those older cards and all that. And I've been saying if you could make people craft, like use their ultra rare crafting points in Master Duel on cards that are literally irrelevant in modern Yu-Gi-Oh, like I feel like it must be a win, but I guess they might think that it like for people it's an either or, right? They're not going to play both. Like you're losing players on maybe playing the modern ladder if you get them to play the old stuff. I don't know.
Which is a weird thing about Hearthstone, because I wanted to like move on to other card games and stuff with the discussion, but I did really have to ask, what was the end? Because I don't think you've done basically any BG content, or at least it's not your main thing. What was that introduction of BG like for you as a content creator? And I guess just maybe as a general Hearthstone player, because that's a very different game from constructed Hearthstone.
Do you know how Battlegrounds was made? Just for like
was it just basically copying TFT?
No. So I think TFT came after Battlegrounds. I'm actually pretty sure.
Definitely not, right? I don't think so. Right, Chan?
Aren't they all just auto chess?
Yeah, it is.
They are just auto chess.
Yeah.
Basically, so Battlegrounds came out in a tavern brawl, and people really liked it. They were like, wow, this is actually a lot more fun than we expected. And it's not like the guy went into with the guy who made it didn't go into it like this is how much money it's going to make us. He went into it like this is a really fun game mode. And because it was so popular, they decided to make it its own format. And as a content creator, I was really small at the time. Like I was still focusing on growing. So I didn't really want to mess up anything. So I didn't really jump into it. Probably my biggest regret in Hearthstone is not jumping into it more, because like a lot of people play that. It's the most popular game out of Hearthstone by a mile for sure.
Yeah.
So it's tough. I think that's why I jumped into like their gacha game more, because I was like, oh, Battlegrounds did so well. Surely this will do just as great. It did not do nearly as great, but that was the thought process behind it. I've done Battlegrounds content before, but I almost feel like you could take Battlegrounds out of the client and it wouldn't really affect my viewership whatsoever. And it wouldn't affect Battlegrounds players either, because as long as it's under the Hearthstone umbrella, like it's fine. I wish I can make I've made content on it. It actually does pretty well, but it's also just because like I think I'm the biggest Hearthstone YouTuber currently, so I can kind of just my audience, I think for the most part, trusts me to do whatever and make an entertaining video from it. So like I kind of get away with it. But if you were there at the beginning of Battlegrounds, like you had a huge blow up. Like you guys both know who Crip is.
Yep.
So Crip's all
He's a Yu-Gi-Oh
Battlegrounds
content
now.
creator now.
He actually is, right? He hosts his own tournaments.
Yeah, he's doing Challenger Cups.
Yeah, that's pretty sick. I don't know if does he actually play Yu-Gi-Oh though, or does he get someone else to like help him? I'm sure he does a little bit.
I don't actually know. I've never properly. Well, I heard like he actually didn't do as bad as his people thought he would for like the commentary of it. So I mean, he must be picking up on it, yeah. Because I mean, he is a very smart guy. Do you know how I know about Crip? Like, this is really random, but like, do you know how I like first learned about him?
No.
So he used to be like, I don't know if he was a content creator specifically of World of Warcraft, but he made one of the most iconic World of Warcraft videos years ago, and it was basically like a huge TLDR. It was like about min-maxing damage. Like he used to teach you, like, and in the video he would explain like how to like min-max your damage by just providing simple concepts that are really obvious in hindsight, where it's like, well, the more inputs and actions you make, you're just doing more damage. Therefore, you know, you have to like stutter step, you have to like just different World of Warcraft terminology that I'm not going to get into, but that's actually how I know about him. And I think he did like world first Diablo or something as well. Like he was like a Diablo gamer as well at one point, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. He plays a lot of Path of Exile too. Like he was he was known for it. I remember I did one of the Do You Know Hearthstones I did with him. That was like the first time I got to speak to him like in a voice call. And I remember I asked him like, well, how did you get into Hearthstone? And he was like, oh, it just looked really fun. Like, but he was too busy playing World of Warcraft or Path of Exile. He wasn't even there at like the first wave either. He came for like I think the third wave. I think he said, I can't remember. Can I tell you a funny story about Crip?
Okay.
So last year for BlizzCon, that was the first time I've gone to like a real event as a creator. And if you did not know, me and Crip live in the same city. We're both from Toronto. So I'm at the airport and I'm waiting for my seat and I didn't see him. But you know how they usually they seat the first class people first. So I walk on the plane, I'm going to my seat, and like obviously the people are putting their bag into the storage compartments above, and I'm stopped and I look to my left and I see Crip right there. And I've never I've never seen this guy in person. I've only seen him, or I've only talked to him over a voice call. And I'm like, do I really want my first big moment like with Crip, like meeting him in real life, be like, oh hey Crip, like this is me, like have a good flight. Like I couldn't do that to myself.
Yeah, so, I'll see you in economy.
I go to my seat, I take my seat, and then I had this realization. I'm like, wait a minute, why the fuck is he first class and I'm not? Like, and I was not like rattled about it, but I was like, wait a minute, this is not fair. And I legitimately wanted to Discord him like while I had service and go like, yo, enjoy your first class seat. And then message my community manager and go, what the fuck? Am I not worthy of first class?
Oh, you were both invited. Okay, I see.
So then I saw him at BlizzCon and he explained to me why he got first class. I didn't even bring it up. I was just like, he was like, let me give you some tips as like someone who's from Canada. I've been doing this for a while. Basically what he said to me was like, rather than getting paid to go to BlizzCon, he like requested first class seats because in his mind, like he had like a whole story of like why he did that. So for the future, if Blizzard ever invites me to something, I might request first class seats over it. But that's the reason why. But I just thought it was really funny, like me sitting at Economy and going like, wait a minute, what the hell?
Dude, I'm gonna do that for Yu-Gi-Oh Worlds.
Do it. You have leverage. I don't know about you guys, but when I talk to Blizzard, like I feel like I'm trying to be really nice because I'm like, oh, I'm so grateful for this opportunity, right? But at the same time, it's like, we kind of have like a good agreement here. Like they need me, I need them. Like it's a nice agreement. Maybe I can get some more from it, but I don't want to push my luck. I don't know how it is with Konami, but
I'll just tell him Raran told me to say this.
Bro, Josh, I'm gonna tell you something. I think Farfar already knows this. I was gonna get a sponsorship with what's the mobile game? Duel Links?
Yeah.
I was gonna get a sponsorship with Duel Links, and then I made that first initial video talking so much shit about Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, how does anyone play this game? I didn't get that sponsorship, Josh.
Well, yeah, okay, fair enough.
It was still worth it, but I thought it was so funny because I like asked my agency, I'm like, hey, like, is there any upcoming sponsorships? So they sent me like a sheet, and I just see the Duel Links one. It said like redacted. I was like, okay, like I don't
brand risk run, dude.
Oh
god, that's really funny. Yeah, so we spent almost an hour, I suppose. I mean, it's the topics are more and plentiful, so I wanted to try find a mutual ground here. So you've played like basically every card game, and I wanted to try bring something in that we've all tried outside of Yu-Gi-Oh! Hearthstone, which I don't know how much Magic you've played, Josh. Have you played a decent amount of Magic?
Not until a couple, like maybe 1 or 2 years ago, but I've played a decent amount by now, I would say. Like I'm familiar.
Okay. What's your thoughts on Magic, Raran? Why is that not a game you play compared to like Hearthstone? I think like primarily probably just because content creatorship is just where you started in Hearthstone, but maybe just as a casual thing for fun if you play or don't play Magic. Like,
okay. That's two different conversations. So like content creation wise, this is just my objective opinion. It's not even subjective at this point. Like this is the case. Hearthstone is the best looking virtual card game. And if I go look at Magic, like, yeah, I can make Magic content, but I don't think it'll do nearly as well with my audience. But just in general, like I think it's really easy to make Hearthstone content that appeals to like more people from my audience that I'm trying to go for Hearthstone's visual speaking. Magic the Gathering, I actually think is a better game than Hearthstone. Like, I think there's so much possibilities with Magic the Gathering. It's really great. So many ways of formats. I haven't played Commander yet. I'm actually really excited to play Commander for the very first time. But strictly speaking, like, I just don't think it's worth for me at the moment to try to like dive into a Commander or like a Magic video and try to like get more of that audience if I'm not going to make more and more Magic content. Because it's weird. Like, you know how you guys are both Yu-Gi-Oh content creators. I don't know, like Farfa, you ever post like a non-Yu-Gi-Oh video on your channel for YouTube?
Weirdly enough, I have one Magic video and it's got like hundreds of thousands of views, and it's like me just doing the tutorial for Magic Arena like 3 years ago.
Okay, but was that a symptom of the game coming out for the very first time? Or was it do you think that the actual like video itself was really, really good?
I don't. Well, I think at the time it was fine, but I think like anyone who looks back at their own art per se, like 6 years ago, was going to be like, "Wow, that sucked ass," right?
Okay.
So,
but I can't remember when Magic was out. There's this weird not weird problem, but there's a really nice thing about YouTube where if you post something that is actively being searched, you get a big audience for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
We just saw this with Marvel Snap. Like Marvel Snap was popping last year. So if you made any Marvel Snap content, regardless of how good or whatever the video was, it was going to get viewership because people were actively searching for it. I'm not calling your Magic video bad for the record. I was just curious to see, like,
yeah, maybe I don't remember if it coincided with the release, but maybe it was, yeah.
Okay, so the other problem with Magic, by the way, is its price. I don't know if you guys have tried Magic Arena, but like getting cards is miserable. It is so expensive. Like people tell me Hearthstone's expensive. They haven't played Magic. Like even Yu-Gi-Oh! I think Yu-Gi-Oh! Is completely reasonable compared to Magic the Gathering.
I'll stop you right there real quick. You've never tried to build a Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck in Master Duel after the initial new player like flood of gems and gifts and stuff like that.
the thing is, I mean, we also have to make the distinction. I feel like we are exclusively talking about like the games from the online perspective, and also mostly from a content creator
Oh yeah, like
perspective
Magic
right
Arena,
now,
I'm
right?
pretty sure is in the same boat. I think it's very similar.
But
Where
I do think, I don't know how Magic Arena works, but I think Master Duel, even if you are past that initial like boost that you're getting, I still think it's reasonable.
so people who've played Arena in the chat are all seem to be unanimous in that Master Duel is actually very free to play compared to. So that's fair.
Yeah, yeah, Arena's
We
rough.
do not talk about dueling still.
That was a different topic. I feel like Duel
Arena's
Links
rough.
and Magic are similar in their structure. I feel right.
If it's similar to Duel Links, I'm never downloading that game.
I don't know if you literally have to pull exactly the card, but I think you need to pull like the same rarity as the card, and then you can craft it like a mythic. You have to get like X number of mythics or something.
Or you can't even craft in Duel Links.
Well, yeah, I know exactly. It's pretty bad.
It's I can't remember the word. But like you need like a specific type of card to craft a specific card in Magic Arena. Like Hearthstone and Master Duel both have like a currency for dust that you can like disenchant cards for.
Well,
you can't
what
do
you
that
guys
in Arena.
have, which is significantly better, is that you have a uniform dust. You just have dust. Yu-Gi-Oh has like ultra dust, super dust, etc., etc.
Yeah, wild cards. That's what it's called. Wild cards. So you need to get wild cards in Magic Arena to craft specific cards for that rarity, which is like if you want to get wild cards, I can't remember what it is. Like you open a certain amount of rarity from packs that you get one, or you can outright buy them in the shop, and they're so expensive. It's crazy, bro. And it's weird because it's like Master Duel, I think, realize. I'm hoping this is what Konami said. They realized like, hey, we're not physically owning these cards, so we have to make it a little bit easier to get these cards for people because there's not that like tangible piece of something that you can hold on to. So yeah, as much as like in real life, like Magic cards and Yu-Gi-Oh cards are more expensive, at least you get the collectible. Where like Magic Arena said, "Fuck you guys!" Like this is the real card, just virtual. Like you're gonna have to open it in a pack and get lucky. Like it seems really bad. As far
Well,
as
price wise aside, you know, I want to like maybe if you can elaborate a little bit more. You said like Magic is just like you think is just like a better like fundamental game than Hearthstone.
yeah. Oh
really?
yeah.
Like what specific aspects you think are better? And a second question on top of that: how do you find lands?
Okay, so when I played Magic a year ago, my only complaint with Magic was lands. But that's also because I'm from a privileged state where I get passive mana, right? Like I think that's a really big deal. Because going into lands and then drawing lands, you're like, what the hell? But Magic, this is one of the things I've always wanted in Hearthstone too. I think the deck building aspect in Magic is infinitely better than it is in Hearthstone because you can combine whatever you want as long as you have the mana for it. Same thing with Yu-Gi-Oh, right? Like you guys can literally make whatever you want in your deck. You just have to make it sure it's like synergize with one another, right? Like there's no requirement. Hearthstone is like from both of you because you guys have both played it. Like you need to only pick cards from the class and neutral pool. So they're missing like a huge aspect of what makes card games and deck building so fun, which is like combining. And I think Hearthstone, if they had dual class building, even though a lot of it would be super degenerate because if you combine two classes together that shouldn't be together, it'd be awful. But like that would be in its own format. Where Magic, at least, like you could do, there's so much capabilities. And because Magic's been around for 25 years, I think they've learned a lot more from card design. Like I've done a lot of videos with CGB recently, Cover Go Blue. He's like the biggest standard guy for Magic. And he showed me cards from older Magic. And like if you ask me that question, I've only seen those cards, I'd be like, no, the Magic's horrible. But I think at least Wizards has learned a lot. And it's nice to see how far they've come, even if like that inherent power creep is there. I just feel like the way that Magic is designed is really well thought out for like competitive people and casual people. And the fact that Commander exists in that world is also like a really, really big accolade for that card game. I don't know if Yu-Gi-Oh has a 4-player mode. I don't think there is, right?
You could theoretically like make one, but no, basically no.
Wasn't Cross Duel essentially an attempt at doing that? It's not a successful one, at least.
Yeah, not even close,
But,
unfortunately.
yeah.
Like tag duels, I think like there are official tag duel rules. To be fair,
The thing is,
that's a miserable experience.
They don't
by the way.
really
Do not
exist,
play tag duels. But anyway,
practically that stuff
What is
doesn't
tag
really
duel?
exist.
Well, so there's player A, B, C, D, 2 versus 2. You sit across from each other. You have a shared life pool of 16,000. And yeah, do you remember that plant deck you played against as your first ever game in Rookie?
No, I've repressed it for sure. If I lost, did I lose? Unless I lost.
Do you remember like your big complaint was like, oh my god, I'm not playing the game, I'm bored, etc., etc., right? Like you were just waiting for someone to just play for like
That
10
was
minutes?
the whole experience. That wasn't one game. What do you mean? Like, what are you talking about?
That was every game. Yeah, so imagine that, but like there's 3 other people.
Oh, okay. So was it like one person's taking their turn and the other 3 people have to wait? And then the
Yeah,
other,
I mean,
like,
you
it
couldn't
just
use
be-
hand traps, but I guess in theory there's double the hand traps at that point. But depending on what tag rules you use, you
No
might
one
play with a
plays
shared
that format.
card pool.
How are you so informed about this?
We had a decent amount of like tag duels at locals for some bizarre reason.
What?
Yeah, our locals like there was a point where we had one like every month or something back in like 2016 or something. It's been a while
I'm
since
just
we had
impressed
them.
that you found 4 people willing to play tag duels.
Dude, it was actually insane. Like the amount of like weird fucking cheating people would do in tag duels is insane. Like pre-siding, passing each other cards. It was the Wild
What?
West 10 years ago, man.
Passing each other cards, dude.
It was crazy.
Oh man. Anyways, to answer the question, no, we don't really have those game modes. Not
Yeah.
really.
It's for the best. It's for the best.
Yeah,
We have nothing
continue
to
with your
the
point.
to the popularity of like Commander. That doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So, you mentioned like maybe I just didn't understand, but you mentioned like the deck building is more interesting. But from what I last understood, like lands and Magic are basically just like essentially just blank cards that you just have to put in your deck and play. Like they don't really do much. So I'm
Beyond
just
that, you have the entire card pool.
Yeah.
Essentially.
I mean, you
But
need a
is
mana
that really-
resource, right?
Go on.
I was gonna say only good games have mana resources, so like you need that, like inherently, right? You can't play the game without your lands. So
But is that really
you-
like a fun type of deck building where you just have these like mandatory like sort of checks on like the map?
I mean, you're not wrong, but like if it's a part of the game's mechanics and every single person has to put lands in, then like it's kind of just redundant to talk about it, right? Because like you're just everyone's gonna subtract basically the same amount of cards from their deck regardless. So then you're
Okay, so first of all, mana isn't mandatory to make a good card game. Okay, let me say that.
Let's get that out of the way.
Let's get that out of the way. But the on a real note, I think like Magic. The way I look at Magic is definitely the OG of card games, right? It's definitely the first big one, the super big innovation, inspiration for other card games out there. I do think that other card games, at least from the fundamentals, have done a better job than Magic at implementing mana. Only because Magic was the very first one to do it, I don't think gives them the right to call themselves the best at it. Because I think there's been plenty of other card games that have handled that specific aspect better. Like for example, I think Hearthstone already is better at that specific thing, right? There's other games that did it even better than that, but I think the fact that you completely remove that factor of having to draw lands and sometimes losing games because you draw too many or too little, which basically has nothing to do with the actual, like, it's no skill expression in, well, I've not drawn a land for 5 turns, I just can't play the game.
Can I just like quickly say,
I think
like,
there's a
that
bunch of other
is
games that
one
have
of the
done a
main
better
issues.
job of implementing a resource system.
Yeah, and you can tell us a little bit about Runeterra, Josh, because that's
Dude,
I think definitely what you might be
I am
alluding to.
Have you ever played Runeterra, Ron?
I did. I got to basically masters for it like 2 months ago.
Ooh, nice. Okay, we can talk about that next. But real quick, I just want to like mention about the mana thing. Like that's where I feel like the harmony between, like, for example, you know, Yu-Gi-Oh and Magic was like really well met. It was because you took a good part of Magic, which is that it's slower, but you also took away like what I personally think is a really fundamentally bad mechanic, which is lands. So they just remove the lands in Hearthstone, but you just have mana. I think that's like a very good system.
It is, yeah. I think that the land system is probably Magic's biggest weakness, from my perspective of someone who's tried a bunch of different card games, and also, I mean, besides Yu-Gi-Oh, most of them had some sort of mana or resource system. I think Magic's land system is, out of all the mana games I've played, is the worst one. That doesn't mean that Magic is the worst game out of the ones that I've tried, but that system I think has been done better in all the other resource-based card games.
And just to clarify, chat, before this gets really heated, because I know there's some people getting very passionate about this game. We're not trying to say like one game is better than the other. We're obviously just trying to like
that's why I specifically clarified. It doesn't mean I think Magic is bad. I think Magic is very enjoyable. I actually enjoy Magic. I still play it from time to time. I have Pauper decks and Commander decks and all that. I like the game, but I've played a bunch of other card games that have resource systems, and I think they're all better than lands.
So speaking about mana, which I think is probably like the most important fundamental aspect of basically any card game that isn't Yu-Gi-Oh! I want to hear you two talk about Runeterra because, well, you are a master, Raran, and Josh has, I believe, gone even further beyond in Runeterra. I don't know exactly what your achievements are, but I think they're pretty fucking big, right, in Runeterra?
I've played at Worlds.
You played at Worlds?
Yeah,
Oh,
for like
shit, man.
they had the Worlds was 2 stages. You had to qualify for the first stage, and then you would qualify for the top 16 or top 8. I didn't make it to the final day, but I played at Worlds, yeah.
That's still pretty sick. I really liked Runeterra.
Runeterra, I'll say it. I think Runeterra is the best mana-based card game that I've ever played.
I think, yeah, I think you're specifically talking about like the spell mana version of it, right?
Oh yeah, no spell. So okay. So in order to understand how good this is, I want to outline the problem in some games first. So in some games like Magic or Hearthstone, it's a big problem if you not only do you need to draw in Magic, you need to draw your lands early, but you also need to draw your cheap cards first, right? That's what they
Yep.
refer to as a curve in all those games, right? If you have a mana on turn 1 and you're not using it, you're falling behind, you're wasting resources, right? You're not playing a 1-cost card. That mana goes to waste for the future turns. If your opponent plays a 1-cost card, they are getting ahead on tempo. And sometimes if you don't draw your playable cards early enough or in the right order, it feels like you're not actually taking part of the in the game until it's way too late, until your opponent has already outdamaged you or whatever. Just gotten way ahead because they've been able to play cards every turn and you haven't, right? And so in Hearthstone, this is Hearthstone only has the issue of not drawing the cards in the right order because you don't actually have to draw the lands. So in Runeterra, they went one step further. They let you save a certain amount of mana for future turns. So if you don't do anything on turn 1 in Runeterra, that 1 mana you haven't used carries over to turn 2 as a separate. There was a separate thingy where you would collect up to 3, and they were called spell mana. You couldn't use them for every card, but you could use them for spells.
Okay, question as someone who has never played Runeterra. So the idea of floating mana is really bad in Hearthstone.
Yes.
So in Runeterra, basically what you're saying is you could bank 3 mana, essentially?
Yes, exactly. You can bank 3 mana, but obviously that would be really broken because then you could play like a 6-drop on turn 3. So they balanced it in a way you can't use it to cast creatures. You can only use it to cast spells. And obviously then they would... That's why also when I played Runeterra for the first time, I read a lot of the spells and I was like, dude, these spells suck, because I was comparing them to like Hearthstone spells. I was like, okay, why does this spell cost 5 mana? In like Hearthstone, I'm used to a spell like this maybe costing 1 or 2, right? But the reason was because you can save up the mana, it's so much easier to cast those spells early, right? You can cast a 6-cost spell on turn 3, and that's why they balanced it a lot around that. And so, for example, the mana still capped out at 10, but if you saved up mana, you could take it slower on some turns earlier in the game, save up mana, and then spend up to 13 mana on turn 10. But some of it had to be on spells, right? But like you could prepare for bigger turns by saving up mana, and it added this whole extra dimension of when do I save my mana because I need more mana next turn? When do I use all of it and all that? I personally think Runeterra, and there's more factors to it, but Runeterra was my favorite resource-based card game I've ever played. And it's been, I think the sad part is that it's been mismanaged into the ground for other reasons, not because the game was actually bad, but because a whole other stuff like the marketing and all that kind of stuff. Just, I don't want to get into it by too much, but it's really sad. I really enjoyed that game. It was really, really good.
You have any thoughts on
I
anything Josh has brought up, Raran?
Yeah, I think spell mana was my favorite mechanic from that game. I loved it. I really wish like I always wanted Hearthstone to kind of adapt what they were doing, because like whatever Josh just said is entirely correct. I think Hearthstone tried to mitigate curves with hero powers so that at least if you didn't have a card, you could spend 2 mana.
Yep.
I think that's the logic behind it.
Mhm.
But the way Runeterra designed their mana system and their like whole gameplay pattern was really well done. And I agree with Josh. Like I think the game was like I played it and I was like, what the hell? Why is this game not more popular? Right?
Yeah.
It is. It's a lot of like I don't know why Riot didn't push it more because they put so much effort into their animations and color. Like like visually speaking, it's beautiful as well. Like it is a well made game. It's unfortunate what happened to it because like if you don't know, like they're stopping expansions.
Yeah, I was
after,
gonna ask, as a big like TLDR, as someone who like I don't think I've ever even played it. What was like the big TLDR? Why this game is it still physically available? Can you still like play?
Yeah, you can still play it. Do you want me to explain,
Okay.
Josh, or you want to do it? Okay, so Runeterra puts a lot of effort into like if you've played any Riot game, you'll know that they spend a lot of time with animations and art. Like they really take pride in it. So like that takes a lot of time and money. And it is becoming too expensive for Riot to actually just be like, oh, we're losing money on this, but we're still gonna make expansions for it. So they released a game mode called Path of Champions, which is basically like Slay the Spire for Runeterra, roguelike in the game. People really liked it, so that's going to be their main game mode now going forward. So they're
It's
no
basically going to
longer,
be a solo player game.
yeah, basically going to be that. They're no longer making PvP expansions. You could still play it, and I think recently they just had one and they did like a rotation for their standard format, but like there's no more champions going to be added for PvP.
Okay, I have no idea as to what the costs and logistics are involved with regards to development and the R&D of something like PvP versus PvE, but it feels and sounds like to me cost-wise, making PvE solo mode feels like it would just be more expensive than just making new cards and letting people be the bots essentially.
You see what the problem is there's a couple more aspects to this, because one of the things that was also really good about Runeterra is they kind of pushed the competitive scene in a really great way. Like the tournaments that Runeterra had, the seasonal tournaments, I don't know if you know about those, but they basically had YCSs every I think it was every 2 months at some point, that you could qualify for through in-game ladder and stuff. And it was a set like it was at some point, at the point where I played actively, it was 1,024 players that took part from home online client. Like you just log in, the thing does pairings for you, you play. It has a pick and ban phase and all that with different decks. You play 9 rounds of Swiss. You play a top cut on the next day or the next weekend. They changed that between, and it had like 10K in money for the first place.
Okay, 2 points. First of all, what was the attendance of like these kind of things? And second, that is unbelievable that they just
it was
have, like,
1,024 always. Like it was always full.
It filled up. It filled up.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
they got
so
it.
okay.
It was limited. You had to qualify for it essentially. It was
Oh,
like
right, I see.
at some point there was like 2 game modes you could qualify through. It was like the top 700 of ladder, and then 324 got in through the other game mode essentially, which was kind of like a weekly challenge
Gauntlet or
thingy.
something. I feel like it was called the Gauntlet, right? I can't remember.
I forgot the name of the second
Yeah,
mode. I don't. But
there was like a qualifying thing where like you played until I think you had like 3 losses and then you got kicked out, and then like if you got all the way
exactly.
in,
You had it was kind of like arena, but not with a draft. It was just like you played and had to try to get a certain number of wins, and if you did that, then you would qualify for the thing. Yeah. But so it just goes to show they even were willing to give something to the competitive player base that was insane. Like imagine having a tournament like that for Yu-Gi-Oh or Hearthstone or any other game where like every 2 months you can sit down in front of your client, it does the pairings for you, you just qualify for it, and you can win 10K for first place or whatever. Right?
I just wanted to focus on that, by the way, because that sounds like one of the most incredible things ever. The fact that, like, regardless of the competitive aspect or not, it's just like the fact that the UI just facilitates like this like structure of a tournament. Like it's crazy to me that duel rooms, for example, like just don't let you do Swiss and stuff like that. And I assume Hearthstone as well just doesn't have like a tournament mode that you can access.
Buddy, Hearthstone doesn't have anything. We can't even make a room. We can only do 1v1s.
So this was just honestly from coming from a Yu-Gi-Oh perspective at the time, didn't even know Master Duel was gonna happen, right? That stuff was insane to me, right? It was so good. And so like from a competitive perspective, that game was just everything I had ever like wanted, right? And now is where the sad part is, because you said like, oh, wouldn't it just make more sense to make more cards and let people buy them and play against each other? The problem with that game was literally you didn't have to spend
Yeah.
anything to play it.
Yep.
Never,
Yeah.
never. I have spent money on this game for cosmetics, which I normally don't really do, just because I felt bad for never having to actually buy anything for this game.
I do agree with you though. Like the problem with Runeterra is the way that they monetize the game. It's
Yeah,
like they inherently like put themselves in such an awkward situation because they wanted like when Runeterra came out, they were competing with Hearthstone. And
yeah,
Riot knew this. So how do you undercut Hearthstone? You do it like more free to play. But inherently by doing that, you can't raise the bar because then people are going to be mad about it. So then
yeah.
they really put themselves in an awkward situation, which is unfortunate because I agree with you. I actually think Runeterra was like the best game that came out of nowhere, and it
Yeah.
really sucks where it ended. I'm gonna ask you a question though. You ever played Lorcana before?
I am currently playing Lorcana a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, I want to hear your opinion on this. I think Lorcana has the best mana system out of any game. I love the way they did it.
Also, I think, except for the saving up mana, I'm with you on it. I think Lorcana's system. I guess we can talk about that. I guess you have to explain it. Let's finish the Runeterra real quick, um, and then talk about Lorcana. But
Fair enough.
the yeah. So long story short, literally, Runeterra didn't even have booster packs, right? Like
Yeah,
you
yeah.
straight
You can't
up,
open it back. Yeah,
it didn't have that. You couldn't.
Yeah, as
yeah.
someone who like hasn't played, what like let's say I download and install Runeterra back in its heyday. Like, how do I build my deck, and how do I
So
build
if you
like a
want to
second and
spend
third deck?
money, you can basically directly your money that you spend directly corresponds with the cards you're getting. So you can see if I need one card, I can spend exactly the amount of money it takes to get that one card. And to be fair, though, no one has ever done that because they have the same wild card system that we talked about for MTG Arena, where you can, like, if you want a rare card, you need a rare wild card. If you want a champion card, you need a champion wild card and all that kind of stuff. And they gave you so many of these every week. Or was it a weekly vault or a monthly vault? I don't
Weekly
remember. But you
ball. You
had
gotta
basically this thing where you have progress in the game, like the dual pass and master duel or whatever, right? That stuff. I think it was weekly, and
Yep.
literally there was so much stuff in it that you
Yeah.
never had to worry about it.
It rewarded you for playing the game. So if you ended up playing enough of the game, you would get an insane amount of cards. Also, Runeterra has like regions, and depending on what region you were focusing on, you also got more rewards just for playing the game.
Yeah,
Also, you got it for I believe the end of a season, so you got
yeah,
even more rewards. Like
yeah.
you would just get an infinite amount of stuff. And the
I am
problem,
not kidding when I say I have never had to spend money in Runeterra to obtain a card.
yeah, pretty
And
much
I've
as
played
long
that
as
game for years, like years, I don't know, 2 years at least.
yeah, I think it pretty much as long as you're not like a brand new player that wants every card, like it won't take you that long to get
I
everything.
had every card.
Yeah, but you started from the beginning, right? That's what you said. Like you started.
Almost, yeah, but that's yeah.
Yeah. So well, like currently there's a when I played it last year for like basically the first time,
Yep.
I couldn't get every card because obviously like there's a lot more now. So getting a full collection took a lot longer. But like I wasn't having problems getting cards. If I wanted
Yeah.
to play a deck, it wasn't that big of an issue.
Yeah.
I spent money personally because of a YouTube video. So I was like, I want to get these cards now without worrying
Yeah,
about the
I mean,
grind. But
if you literally have like no time to wait, or you don't want to, you're not patient to wait to grind to play like a little bit for one day or whatever, then I guess you can like get a deck
yeah,
for 10 or 20 bucks just to get started. That's also super reasonable still.
yeah,
But unironically, like, I think the biggest problem with that game was that it was literally too cheap, which is a crazy thing to say because I mean, obviously everyone always complains in Yu-Gi-Oh and Hearthstone and Magic for how expensive the stuff is, but in Runeterra the game literally died, and I think the main reason is because it was too F2P friendly. Like, it
Can
literally
I
wasn't
can I just
sustainable.
interject and like, from what I understand, right? Like, Riot is the company that made League of Legends. League of Legends costs literally nothing. So if they're making a lot of money from League of Legends just based on the cosmetics and stuff, how come that just doesn't translate into the card game, right? Like, if you're just
well,
letting people play for free, like, surely you can monetize in other ways.
I mean, how many League of Legends players want to play a card game? Probably like 0.1%, maybe 1%.
Well,
And
there's
then
also
they
the
also-
I
appeal
guess
to
the
other
question you're
audiences.
asking
Then.
is they did have like card backs and
Yeah,
emotes, and you could have skins for some of the champions, right? They would look differently. I think that was, from what I remember, I think that was added into the game relatively late. Like you're right. Like you would think that's a thing that you have right away, but that is something that I remember as being added relatively slowly and with, like, over time. Like in the beginning, maybe they had like a couple different boards that you could play on and a couple of
Yeah.
different sleeves, but I don't think there was even a single champion skin that existed when I started playing the game. And so maybe that is something they should have focused on more from the start. Um, Possibly, right? I don't know exactly. That's the problem. I don't know the exact reasons why that game failed, but from my perspective, it definitely wasn't the gameplay aspect, because that game, literally, it was phenomenal.
So I'm gonna bring up the reason why I think it failed. My problem with Runeterra was not my problem personally, is that where does it fit among every other card game that's already been established? If you want a
Mhm.
casual card game, you go to Hearthstone. If you want a more intermediate card game, you go to Magic. And then if you want the absolute nonsense that is Yu-Gi-Oh, you go there. Where does Runeterra fit? Runeterra doesn't
fair
have
enough.
Runeterra doesn't have this weird. Runeterra's like in a really weird spot where it's like it's not casual enough for them to get League of Legends players to get into it, but it's also not like in depth enough where it feels like the really hardcore gamers will get like attached to it.
I
Where
think it did that. At least to me, it did that, because I would classify myself as that, like a super competitive card game player. I think it was appealing to us. Maybe the problem was it was a little bit too much of that, and like those, they're just not enough of us, right, to carry an entire
yeah,
game.
is it the high level players are like 0.1% usually of a game, right? That's Hearthstone is really smart with like how they cater towards casual players, which
Yeah.
is a big shame because if Runeterra was first and Hearthstone didn't exist, I think it would have been a lot better because
Yeah.
you would have got people maybe trying it a little bit more. But because I think Hearthstone existed, and this is a huge aspect of card games, is the sunk cost fallacy that comes with a card game. It is impossible to remove someone from a card game that they're so invested to. Like Hearthstone's interesting because I don't have a physical card, but I have put time and money into that game. So you have to bring me something that is going to make me pulled away from that, which is so difficult to do. Same thing with Magic. Like people have been invested for 20 years. Like how do you pull someone out of Magic at that point? Same thing with Yu-Gi-Oh. I'm sure you guys have tangible stuff that is worth hundreds of dollars and you guys play consistently. How do you
Mhm.
pull someone out of Yu-Gi-Oh to go play Runeterra? Like it's impossible. Also, Riot could have done something which is put it in the client of League, like they
Yeah,
did with
I've heard
TFT.
that a bunch of
I
times.
was
that
going
they
to
just
bring stuff like that up, right? Because, like, so the point I was making between, like, the upkeep of League of Legends, if it costs X to maintain League of Legends, a game that's literally free, surely they could somehow make it somewhat similar for the card game, plus the cosmetics. But also one thing that Hearthstone, or rather Blizzard, did really well was you get like in-game rewards if you log into World of Warcraft and then go into Hearthstone, and vice versa. There's like cosmetic like things that you can get for your characters. So if they just did things like that, it feels like, oh, if you log in and do the tutorial of Runeterra, you get like
Yeah,
a
and
new
here's the
champion
thing.
or something, right? Like I don't know, is that not like something they did? Could
Yeah,
they have
here's
not
the
done
thing.
that?
To my knowledge, this is something that people brought up, and they never did that. They never did cross promotion of
That's
Legends of
crazy.
Runeterra
It's their
in
own game. It's
League of
free.
Legends. Exactly. It's and that's why it blew everyone's mind. Like it blew everyone's mind that you couldn't even create like a button in the League of Legends like overlay of like, hey, look, we have this other game too. Because I think Overwatch has that.
What, to go to Hearthstone or World of Warcraft? I have actually no idea.
No, Overwatch. What is Overwatch? Riot or Blizzard?
Overwatch is Blizzard.
Blizzard.
But I can tell you that
What's the Riot
100% in World of Warcraft, you can get a mount. Like there's like 2 mounts now you can get just by logging into Hearthstone.
Yeah.
Riot doesn't have a Overwatch equivalent.
Oh,
I don't know.
Valorant is the
Valorant, yeah,
Riot, right?
Yeah. Which is like more. I get what you're saying, though. I get what you're saying. Riot. Here's the other thing. This is like, okay, this is another theory. I'm not sure if this is confirmed, but Riot probably realized that they wanted to make like a cinematic universe for like League of Legends, and people who don't want to play League of Legends, one of the aspects they could bring people in is through a card game, right? So like, even if they're losing money on Runeterra, at least they have more people introduced to the world of Runeterra. Therefore, like if Arcane comes out, right, which I don't know if you guys watched it, but I was there day
Hell
one.
yeah.
as like a certified League of Legends like fanboy. People who didn't watch League or don't play League of Legends watched Arcane, right? So it's like maybe at the cost loss to get people more invested into the Runeterra universe is probably what Runeterra was for Riot Games.
Dude, I feel like I'm the only one that watched Arcane because I played Runeterra.
Yeah, so, right. You are the example then, right? That's crazy.
Sorry, you know the Breaking Bad Gustav meme. You know, you watch Arcane because you play Legends of Runeterra. I watch Arcane because I play Runeterra. That's Josh.
We are not the same.
We are not the same.
Not it's unfortunate. I'm gonna Runeterra is great, especially as someone who had so much like background with League of Legends. I'm gonna miss it.
Yeah,
especially because I think the game was really well designed.
Well, if you're interested, there's a theory and a big cope that Yu-Gi-Oh is getting something similar with the new establishment of Konami Animation and the little trailer they dropped
like
of a bunch
Arcane?
of
Or you're talking Arcane, or are you talking like another card game?
Like an Arcane animations and potential show and stuff like that.
Yeah, like a potential show.
My God.
Have you I want you to like react to the trailer at some point. Actually, Google Yu-Gi-Oh Chronicle when you're done and check it out, see what you think. But yeah, there was a new studio established by Konami, so there's a theory that maybe we'll get a show or something on it.
Okay, so we were yapping about we wanted to start yapping about Lorcana while you were gone for a second.
Yeah, so that's I think the probably one of the last major card games that I think we should probably cover, right?
Yeah, I mean okay.
So I've never played that game. I honestly don't know anything about it. I think it's so funny that you can like play Donald Duck OTK or some shit. But go ahead and take the floor.
I'm gonna say something. I feel like Disney really missed the mark. If they made a client like Hearthstone or Blizzard did, that Lorcana would have been the biggest card game in the world, I'm pretty sure. Like the game is so easy to get into. Like if you've played it casually, like your little sister could probably play it or anything like that. Like it is really well done. The mana system is what I really like about Lorcana. I'm a huge fan of it because what it is like you don't have a mana system. You use cards to sacrifice for your mana, and it builds up once per turn for every card you sacrifice. There's obviously like a little bit of like nuance to that because some cards do increase it, some cards manipulate a little bit more. But it's cool that you have to make a decision of like, do I actually play this card or do I put it towards my mana? And I personally haven't played another game like that. I'm sure there has been inspiration that they took
Dual
it from.
Dual Master is the inspiration.
What the hell? Can you explain this in like maybe very basic Yu-Gi-Oh terms? So it just sounds like you're constantly tribute summoning every turn?
Basically, it was a kind of convoluted way to explain it. Farfar, you instead of getting a free mana every turn like you do in Hearthstone, or instead of having to play a dedicated land like you do in Magic, you put one of the cards in your hand face down, basically acting like a land from this point on.
And so you have you just take like your garnets and bricks and use them as mana.
Into your hand. So you have to like choose: do I want to play this card for its effect, or do I want to use it as mana for the rest of the game?
That's pretty cool. Can you get them back if you want?
Only via it would have to be a specific card effect, which I'm not sure if it exists. But theoretically, it would be possible to print a card that says add one back to your hand or whatever. But like by game mechanic, no.
Okay, so basically you could just use your bricks and garnets, or
essentially. So it's very cool because it allows for a couple of interesting design stuff because you can obviously play more situational cards with the idea of, well, if I don't need it for a certain matchup, I can put it into my mana, right? And it also, they have another added thing on it, which is that in order for a card to work as mana, it needs to be because in the game the mana is called ink. The card needs to be inkable. Like basically, it's on the card. It has a symbol, and some cards can be used for it, and some cards can't.
Yep.
Right. And so you can make a card. If you make a really powerful card, you can balance it by saying, well, but you don't get the utility of using it as mana. You have to always keep it in your hand, right? And so you have to balance your deck between, well, I have to make sure I keep enough of these. I have enough of these cards that I can use as mana. Otherwise, I won't have any. But I also want to play these really powerful cards that can't be used as mana, right? So it's pretty cool.
All right, not fixating on the details too much, but you said that you play these face down. Do you do you not like have to show your opponent? Like
you have to show your opponent. Yes, that was the first thing I was worried about too. Like what is stopping people from just putting cards face down that aren't meant to be used as that? But yes, you have to show your opponent.
Infernity, like the game.
Infernity, the game. Yeah. No, you have to show. So
Okay.
there's information as well. Like you give your opponent the info of what you're playing relatively early and what kind of cards you still have and which ones you put down and all that.
Right, I see. Okay.
Pretty sick game. Big fan.
How do you know about
Wish-
this, like, Raran?
me?
Because, like, it's a physical game only, isn't it? Like,
There's well, actually, the first time in years I went to a local for Lorcana because I bought the first chapter box and I bought the newest expansion as well. Well, not newest, but like the second one or the first expansion, I should say. But there's also a online client for it. It's called Pixelborn, which is like
is that
free.
official?
No.
No, it's not. Which is why I think like if Disney made an official client for the game, I think it'd be really successful. Like not only is it Disney's IP, but the gameplay is really like it's a really easy game to understand. It's like Hearthstone, but the nuance and like the expertise of the game really go up because of just do I ink well or do I ink my card? Do I use this card? It's such a simple design that translates really well to gameplay. And I think Disney really missed the mark. I really think they did. I would have loved
This
it.
is the same criticism that people had for One Piece and Digimon, right? Because I don't know if you've played those, but I also thought both of these are pretty good card games. I've tried both of them, and they just all don't have that. I don't know if it's that the cost associated with creating a client for it is like way too much, but
Probably quite
I really
expensive.
I would see it as a huge way to boost your physical card games popularity if
Oh,
there
for
was a
sure.
way to try stuff online and get a feel for the game, see if you like it before you have to spend a bunch of money on cards, right? But
Has there ever been, like, a Hearthstone simulator? Because I feel like that game is just not possible to simulate, right?
dude,
Like,
Hearthstone, what?
It's the easy. What are you talking? It's probably the easiest
Hearthstone
one.
is the Hearthstone simulator.
no, I mean, like, unofficial. No, I mean unofficial, like, for like, you know...
It's his internet.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, I DC'd for a second.
Are you
Yeah, I
back?
mean, that was good because the take was probably not worth listening
Yeah,
to be
that
fair.
was a rough take there, bud. You
No,
right?
what I meant was unofficial, like, you know, our games, right?
No, I get what you mean. There's no like third party simulator if that's what you're asking. People have built stuff in what is it called? Game Top Simulator, Tabletop Simulator. Like there's like older versions of Hearthstone, but there's never
Yeah.
been like a third party client. Also, Blizzard would just like DMCA you the second you did it for sure. There's no way they're gonna let that slide.
You say that,
weird-
but there's plenty of simulators for other card games that have not been stopped.
I mean,
but-
yeah, but like Hearthstone is literally the Hearthstone. Like, what do you? I don't get it.
I,
like Pixelborn is allowed to exist because Disney doesn't have a competitor directly to it.
I'm pretty sure they're happy that it exists because it gets people to play Lorcana,
Yes,
right? It
for sure.
gets people to try it out. If they had their own, I'm pretty sure they would care.
Yes. Yeah. The second it starts impacting their bottom line, they would be like, "Hey, what are you guys doing? Get out of here."
Yeah.
So same thing with Blizzard, right? If someone made a third party client that had every card and it was like basically the
I
same
mean,
thing as
that's what I
Hearthstone,
was getting at, right? Was like, I was just curious if Hearthstone ever had, like, you know, a way essentially to circumvent having to buy cards. Maybe there was like a platform people wanted to test the cards on without having to actually buy them or something, right?
So like I've actually thought about this a lot. I wish Hearthstone had like a public test realm, right? One of the problems that Hearthstone has is like they release cards. Sometimes they're absolutely broken. It's like, do they not test these cards? But there's only so many games they can play internally because their team's smaller. But if they had a public test realm, then people could try before they're fully released. But then it's like, how do they manage like you getting every card in a public test realm? Why would you actually play the real game? So I don't know how they would be able to actually make like another third party way of just getting every single card because then it affects their bottom line. And Blizzard, we know Blizzard. They need their money.
Sounds also boring as well, to be fair, because I feel like a lot of people would be like, you know, solving the format and breaking decks like before it's even live, right?
I mean, we do that anyways.
Are you referring to the OCG being our public test server?
Literally, yeah. Yeah, we have a Japanese PTR client. It's called the OCG. I don't know if you've heard of it, Raron.
I've heard like the Japanese has their own like format, right?
It's because they get the cards a couple months ahead of us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I remember the conversation of I think it was maybe with you, Farfo. I was like, why isn't Maxi banned in Master Duel? And you were like, it's still legal in the Japan format, right?
Yeah, they still have it. They're
Yeah.
crazy.
It's just, for some reason, there's just like this weird sort of split in philosophy or perspective of how the game should work with such a defining card. And in TCG it's banned, in OCG and Master Duel it's legal. And I guess we'll never really know why they think as such. They're still
Konami's
testing
never
it. Yeah,
addressed
that's true. They're still testing it.
Holy man.
Have
I'm
you ever
so glad
played
Hearthstone doesn't have them.
Pokemon Online?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's
Dude,
what's you guys' thoughts on Pokemon?
Josh, you play
Pokemon's
Pokemon
cool.
too? Yeah,
I
okay.
play Pokemon, yeah.
Yeah. I think Pokemon. I think the client's kind of strange for it. Like the new one they did was it's nice because you get like it's really free to play as well. I think the gameplay of Pokemon's also really interesting. In my opinion, it's like the balanced Yu-Gi-Oh is what I'm gonna call it. Like there's really limits on like how much dumb shit you could do in your turn before your opponent actually gets to play the game, which is nice. But it comes at a cost of like very streamlined archetypes as well. Because again, there's not really like a mana system. You can only play a certain amount of certain type of cards per turn, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So it's a cool trade-off. I think it's really well done. Like it's just a fun game. And most people are like, I didn't realize Pokemon actually had like a real card game. I thought they just collected the cards. But it is fun. They're also making like I don't know if you guys saw on was it Nintendo Direct? They're making like a new app for it.
They're making Pokemon Duel Links.
Yeah, that actually looks interesting. I hope they don't fumble it.
Yeah, but come on, man. Pokemon Company, they never do anything wrong. Are you serious?
I think my biggest issue with Pokemon when I was playing, it just felt, I don't know, maybe if it's like the client, like just isn't as kind of nice and smooth and flashy as like Hearthstone or Master Duel, but it just kind of felt like, okay, well, here's my turn. I'm just gonna like play a ton of these cards. My opponent has no interaction. They're gonna do the same to me, and then like that's sort of the loop.
Okay, so part of that is just that's Pokemon, right? Pokemon is kind of like the game is less interactive than most other card games because you only interact with your opponent at like to a certain degree, and rather it's more like you're trying to race to the same finish, but whoever gets to do it faster wins, right? It's like you're playing against your opponent, but you're also just trying to outrace your opponent, if that makes sense. But I think the other thing you mentioned is mostly just because I think the client was originally meant to just promote the physical card game. I don't think it was ever meant to be a standalone thing that is good and people play only that, right? Which is also why the main way you got the cards back in the day. I don't know if it's still the case.
It still is.
But they had these like codes in that physical packs that you had to get the cards, right? On the online thing.
Which feels very outdated, doesn't it? It feels very outdated, don't you think, that system?
I don't know. I think it'd be cool.
Really?
Except for the fact that they have to print a bunch of unnecessary stuff that just goes in the trash after someone has entered the code. But
I suppose because you know this how it used to work in Yu-Gi-Oh, right? Like you used to be able to play Tag Force and stuff. The old like PlayStation games, I think, and you could like input codes from packs.
Oh,
well, like the card code.
Yeah, like you used to be able to buy Yu-Gi-Oh
it's
packs.
not like that.
I think it's pretty cool.
So in a Pokemon pack, there is a specific card that has a QR code on it, and that gives you a digital version of that pack.
Yeah, because I know that people like sell them on Card Market and stuff.
Yeah, people buy them for like a couple cents. Yeah.
I think obviously the biggest positive of that, and it's very idyllic in its design, I feel, is that it's logical in that, well, okay, so you're a Pokemon player, you're going to buy some packs, you're going to try and build this. So logically, why don't you take these packs that you're buying and put them into the simulator? But I feel as though there's a bit of a Venn diagram of the crossover between online and physical, but I think there is quite a significant divide between people who play online card games and people who play physical card games. And I think we see that in Master Duel specifically, because there's a huge community of only ever played Master Duel online or only ever play Yu-Gi-Oh online, but don't play physical. So I think maybe like keeping them separate has its positives.
What's the positives?
Well, the positives is that you grow two separate audiences rather than have them in direct competition with one another, right?
I mean, it's never competition though, right? If someone is not willing to play a physical card game and is an online gamer exclusively, like you're never going to get him for the physical, right?
Well, if you want to play only online, you're not really spending money unless you are, actively burning like
the
Go on.
way Pokemon has done it is they are not worried about making money on the online client because
Yeah, I
they're
mean
already
that's
making the
yeah.
money from the. But you can make it like easily. You can make it so that if you don't buy the physical cards, you could buy these cards for like half the price, and like you'd still make money from it online, right? Easily. It just Pokemon doesn't care because they make billions regardless of what they're doing. They would
Mm,
rather have the online client so people can play their cards immediately and have some more, I guess, appreciation for actually getting more cards if they're not just collectibles.
mm.
But like it's arguably like the perfect system, right? Like I'm sure a lot of people who bought old Magic cards would love to be able to go like, oh, I could put these on Magic Arena and play with them rather than rebuying every single card. Yeah, it's more money for the Wizards,
Yeah.
but like the average person would be like way more excited for the option of adding a code into your game and getting those
It's
cards
cool
delivered.
because it doesn't feel like they're trying to make money on multiple fronts, right? It very much feels like the main product is the trading card game, right? The physical trading card game, and the online simulator is just a bonus, right? The online simulator is what they offer you to try these cards online, maybe test them before you get the cards for yourself in paper, and it's just it comes as a package deal, right? You don't have to play two separate games or invest into two different things, two different collections at all times to maintain. If you want to be a Yu-Gi-Oh player, you have to like pay for Master Duel and pay for physical cards. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fair.
Our is actually a secret Konami agent making sure that we're spending money in multiple avenues. It's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Well, moving away from the monetization as such, we usually try to keep these things at about 1 hour 30-ish, and we're over now. But I mean, I'm down to keep talking.
You can't expect me to talk about like 10 different card games in 1.5 hours.
Yeah,
What do you mean?
But in general, I suppose if there's any like mechanics or any things that we like that either of you really wanted to talk about or bring up, then I guess now would be the time. And my internet has decided to pay a good clap really quick.
Well,
Can you still?
I can tell you about the resource system. It has a so in that game, neither of the players have to put their own resources onto the field, but rather the stream has died, by the way, again. But
Yeah,
I think
Yeah, I know.
I'm
Don't
just
worry.
reading the F.
We've got the recording. We've got the recording. Don't worry.
All right.
okay. So in Digimon, the way it works is you both share the same resource. I don't know what the word is, but it's got a memory gauge is what it's called, or gauge. I don't know how GAUGE. Word, I don't know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so it starts at 0, right? And when you play a card that costs 3, it moves by 3 in the opponent's direction.
Oh, I see what you're
And
saying. Okay.
and
Yeah.
once as soon as you pass 0, it's your opponent's turn. So your turn goes as long as you can spend mana, or memory is what it's called. As long as you can spend memory without passing over 0, you can play. And the more expensive, you can literally play a card that costs 10 on the first turn if you want to, but then your opponent starts to turn with 10 as well. So the more you pay for a card, the more your opponent can pay as well. Um, and so it's this whole game of I want to maximize the use of my memory that I have, but I also don't want to give my opponent too many resources when it passes back to them, right? So the minimum you can give them for a turn is literally 1. You can leave them on 1 memory for their turn, even 10 turns into the game, or you can give them 8 on turn 1.
That's actually pretty insane. I'm trying to think like this. Is there like hand traps between each player's turn, or is it like Hearthstone where you do your turn and then I do my turn?
It's mostly you do your turn, then they do theirs.
That's really interesting. I wonder how much of an advantage the person going first has comparatively to the second person.
It's I've played it for quite a while. We went to locals, me and my fiance a couple times, and it I don't think going first is that big of a deal.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's good. That's actually that's a sick mechanic. That's really interesting. I
Yeah,
don't think I've ever played a card game that has like a shared resource system like that. It's not
yeah,
even
it's pretty
shared. Yeah,
nice.
I see what you mean though. That is really cool. See, like that's it. If Digimon had an actual client, like I don't know if there's like an online client, like I would do that.
Not
I would try
really.
it for
No, it
sure.
literally people were playing it on Tabletop Simulator, like you mentioned earlier.
Oh,
It's so
okay.
painful.
Yeah, see, like I don't know how you guys decide what games to play. Like I'm sure Josh, you seem like you're a very competitive person. So as long as the gameplay is like great, like you're there for
Hmm.
it.
Yeah.
Farfa, I don't know about you. Like for me, like personally, like I have to make sure it visually looks nice which is why like I won't try Digimon on like Tabletop Simulator, because I just feel like from an audience perspective, if I'm making content for it, like I don't want to do that, because I just feel like it looks really, really bad. Maybe like off stream it'd be interesting to try it out, but like I do like when the everything is streamlined to maximize my enjoyment of a card game. So I feel like if it's not maximized, like am I really getting the full experience? Locals is obviously you're there for like the community of it, right? Like you're there for like the back and forth, but like it's not really the same thing on Tabletop Simulator. Like I feel like you really need a good client to really embrace a game. Which if Digimon's as fun as you say, because that's a really interesting mechanic. I'm surprised they haven't made one, but maybe they just don't. Digimon's not that popular anymore, right? Like I feel like I never see it anywhere. It used to be big when I was a
It's
kid.
weird because it was fairly popular. Like we were pulling at our locals, I think we were pulling more than like we had like 15 people at certain times, which was honestly pretty good for
50,
German
50?
locals. 15,
Oh, okay.
not 50, but that the capacity of the store wouldn't have even allowed for that. But like
Okay.
it's like if for the locals, I think it was comparable to Yu-Gi-Oh. Like Yu-Gi-Oh was getting maybe like 20 at that store. So it was solid. But the I think one issue was I feel like One Piece and Digimon have kind of even though they're both from the same company, they are very similar
I
in
haven't
how
played
they
any of
play.
them.
They're not super they're not the same, but they have a lot of the same concepts. And that's I think that's kind of weird. Like I don't know many people that play both, and a lot of people just switched over from Digimon to One Piece because they're so similar. It's really easy to pick up One Piece if you've played Digimon, and One Piece is just the more popular franchise, so it's kind of killed Digimon. I feel like.
Yeah, I
Okay.
was gonna say, I
Yeah.
feel like the backing of the IP itself is probably a huge factor for One Piece, right? And probably why
Yeah.
maybe to some people it might not be like that good of a game, but I know so many people who have just like quit like Yu-Gi-Oh specifically, mostly Europeans, but we'll see how it happens how it goes next season. And they're just like traveling around, like going to like multiple different like big regionals and stuff like that. But
I don't know. I
game,
like One Piece.
yeah,
It's also good. But I just love card games in general, dude. There's no card games where I can't like at least appreciate the positives. Because that's the thing with me. I've played so many different card games that when I try a different one, to me it mostly just feels refreshing and I can really appreciate the positives rather than point out the thing that, hey, I like this more in this other card game. No, it's more like when I'm playing this one card game right now, I can really appreciate oh, this is cool. You know, this certain mechanic is better than in other games. I like that. Or, you know, like I don't know. That's just kind of my way of looking at it. But that's why I can't remember a card game that I've tried and I felt like, oh, this is terrible. I don't know.
I'm trying to think if I think I stopped playing Shadowverse because visually I hated it.
That
And
one
not
I
even
haven't
like
tried.
was it just like the
I
art
think we've
style?
talked. I think at this point we've talked about all the ones that I have that I've tried.
What did you not like about
I
Shadowverse?
I just hated the way it looked. Not the anime art style, just like I think it just looks like trash. Like just the way that the cards are represented in the background, it's just not for me. Like I couldn't look at it after playing Hearthstone and be like, this is fine. It's fine if you like it. I have nothing against anime. Huge fan. Corey in the House is one of my favorite shows. It's just me personally, I can't do it. Have you guys played the actual best card game, which is Slay the Spire?
Yes,
No,
I've played a decent amount of Slay the Spire. I
Josh,
saw
you can
you
play Slay the
getting
Spire?
like really far in it. What is like? There's like levels.
isn't that a solo player game?
It
It
is,
is.
yeah.
It is. It is.
Okay.
But
It's a
I can't
purely
recommend it
PvE
enough.
experience though, which is, I suppose, gonna be really different compared to the rest of the games here. But it's really cool in that um, you're almost like testing yourself in this. It is roguelike, right? It's not like
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so like the deck building in there is really interesting because it comes with your leveling essentially as you go to the next stage and stuff. Like you like pick up cards and stuff and you design that way. And then it's like class based as well, which I think is really cool. I like the idea of classes. I feel like I think Hearthstone really cemented that in my mind as like a cool thing. You know, and like the idea
Yeah.
of like colors and magic as well, I think is really cool. But yeah, Slay the Spire is really different because there's just no PvP capability. But I mean, you're really into it.
It is. I mean, okay, like from a gameplay perspective, not even mechanics. It plays so well. Like it's amazing how well that game plays.
Yeah, and it looks really
The
good.
most most importantly, like mechanically speaking, like every character is really unique in how the game plays. And I like the fact that like Hearthstone, my thing about Hearthstone is I like that fact that every game plays differently, even if you're playing the same two decks because of the randomness involved. And that I think it's really Slay the Spire took that to the next level because it's a roguelike. Also, there is a PvP mod, which is very exciting because after I get good at the game, I'm gonna play against Frostprime in it, which I think is really interesting because the way how he described it to me, it was like Hearthstone but Slay the Spire. And I'm really intrigued to see what that actually plays like. But Josh, I can't recommend it enough. I don't know how you feel about PvE games.
I mean, I
Great
might
game.
try. It's not something I would probably play on my free time, but it does sound like something I could try on stream at some point.
It is. It's fun. There's also the I'm doing for a video called the Ascensions, which is like each level of the Ascension adds a new rule, and they're cumulative. So the higher you go, the harder it gets. And it like it at I did Ascension 20 recently, and it was just the amount of brain power required to beat Ascension 20 is pretty insane. Like it gets really, really tough. So if you want like a challenge that's not just going against Maxi every single time, pretty, pretty great game. Also, there's a Yu-Gi-Oh mod for it too. I'm pretty sure you can play as like Yu-Gi-Moto in it.
Ooh, so I can play against Maxi.
I don't know if there's a Maxi card, but like you can play as like Yu-Gi-Moto as a class. It's there's a lot of modding for that game too, which is really cool. Because that's the benefit of having a single player game is that they don't care because they just give you every requirement to mod the game.
Yeah, modding is something that I mean, we kind of talked about it earlier. I suppose the closest thing you could get to modding really would be like custom like rules and stuff like that. But I've always thought that would be like such a cool thing to explore, would be the ability to do that. But yeah, we've already talked about that a decent amount anyway.
Yeah, I'm out of card games now. I don't think I have another one.
Yeah. So I think we can probably send off now. I suppose just as a send off, I want to ask I guess everyone here what your favorite like and least favorite like mechanic has been from all the card games you've tried. So you want to start us off, Rara? What's your most favorite mechanic?
Oh, you're talking like keywords in a sense, or like gameplay mechanics?
Yeah, something related like to the gameplay,
Sorry,
I suppose, like the fundamental sort of rules of the game.
Okay, let me think about this for a second. My favorite mechanic from any game is the quest mechanic in Hearthstone. I love the concept of having a built-in win condition from turn one. I think it's really, really cool. As long as it's balanced, I think it's like really well designed. Because it's cool how like that win condition is inherently showed to both players right at the start, and you could start adapting to their play style if you know what it is. There are times where Hearthstone's really like messed it up because they didn't know how to balance it properly. But if it's well done, like I think it's a really good mechanic for the game. Least favorite, I don't know. I'd have to think a little bit more on that. As a game itself, I still think like Yu-Gi-Oh is probably the one that I would probably have the most criticism for, just because it's so different.
What's
But
like
again,
the
like
specific like thing about it, do you think?
I just think the game was impossible to get into. Like I can't imagine someone trying being like, "Oh, I want to play Yu-Gi-Oh for the first time," and being like, "What the fuck?"
So the
Like, how
barrier
do you
to
get in?
entry.
Barrier, like I think that's basically. I played so many card games now. I think that the biggest things are like visually, how does it look, how does it play, and what is the amount of time it takes for you to feel comfortable as a player, right? Yu-Gi-Oh by far is some like I think people would call me a bad card game player, but like let's be real here, I'm probably better than the average person just because it's like this is my full-time job and how much I played, and I still was like, what the fuck's going on? But that's the inherent problem of not having a rotation, right? Like if you don't have a rotation, you don't have a way for people to get in like a good entry point for players, like it's always going to be a problem. I don't even know how they fix it, right? That would be my biggest thing. I don't even know if I think he died again, by the way. I'm not sure about it.
No,
No, I think they're.
Oh,
It's just one guy.
okay, I got one guy. All right.
Josh, favorite and least favorite aspects or mechanics in games you've played?
We've already talked about it, but my favorite I think is really the spell mana from Legends of Runeterra. That one I just thought was phenomenal. My least favorite, oh, I'm not sure.
It's hard.
Like I said earlier, I when I try different card games, I really focus on I feel like I'm focusing more on the positives than the negatives. But on the topic of, because I feel like we've talked about it a lot today, I think the on the mana and resource topic, I guess I'll just give it to lands, or we can give it to Floodgates in Yu-Gi-Oh, or maybe Floodgates in general. Like let's give it to Floodgates. Yeah, that's fair.
I don't think of like the equivalent to a floodgate when I was playing Hearthstone. I couldn't really think of
Loatheb.
anything. Huh?
What's a floodgate?
Loatheb.
Oh, okay, sure. A floodgate
What's a
is like
floodgate?
something
Oh
that
my
just doesn't
god!
let
Don't
you.
tell him. No, don't tell him.
Have you ever
What is
been
it? What
under
is it?
like
What is it?
Dimension Shifter? That's probably a card you've been hit by, surely, right?
What
I'm
is that card
surprised you
do?
don't know this term because I think it's a Magic term originally, but like a floodgate is just is a card that stops a certain type of card or effect to be used, right? Like for example, if you play a card that says your opponent can't attack, or your opponent can't summon, or your opponent can't use fusions, or your opponent can't use the graveyard, that's a floodgate. And usually those are either for a turn or for over multiple turns, right? And in Yu-Gi-Oh, it's a very
Okay.
hated mechanic because
The games
it's
are so
being
short.
used to basically make people not take part in the game, right? Because there's certain cards that say, for example, you can only control cards of a certain type, of one type at the same time, and certain decks just can't play under that restriction. And if you don't have a way to remove that card from the field, you can't play the game.
Maybe it's because Yu-Gi-Oh has it at like a critical mass that I
It
never
does.
really heard about for it. Like I think like Lothab is what you described. Yeah, like that's probably like the closest. But I don't know. No one usually just be like you just got Lothab because it's like a very rare effect that Hearthstone does. Maybe it's because Hearthstone's my most played game that like Blizzard is pretty cautious of printing effects like that. They don't ever want to like lock your opponent out of the game. They've done it.
It's not a very I feel like in most games people agree that it's not a very fun mechanic. I know Magic has a bunch of them too. Where it's like I don't know, or like you could there's like your opponent's cards cost one more, or your whatever, your opponent can't do this, or certain things. I know Magic has it as well. I know that for some reason in Magic it's not as hated. Um but in Yu-Gi-Oh, most people really hate it when the opponent plays a card that says you can't play the game.
Oh wait, I just had someone in the chat brought up the I played what's his name Protoss, and I just stopped them
That
from
is
playing
one
like
as well. Like
yeah
if your
like
opponent's
Was
that.
playing a
Protoss
deck where
legal when you
Protoss
played?
is calling an attribute that they,
Yeah,
Oh wait,
he was
Protoss
playing
is legal
Master.
Masto. Yeah, did you never summon Protoss?
I did. That's an
Yeah.
example. I just didn't know what the term was, but I like
Mm.
it's so okay. Like I'm not gonna have this discussion with you guys, but card games are really hard to make because you have to think about what is more important: the person who bought the cards and are playing them, or the person going against it, right?
Mhm.
And most
Mm.
of the time, card game designers will lean towards the person that actually is playing the card rather than the person that's receiving it. So
I've made this point in the past where a lot of times cards that people are complaining about are very unfun to play against, but super fun to play with
yeah,
sometimes.
it's
And
it's a really
and
hard
to
balance.
to an extent in card games, that is something that's always going to be the case because like inherently winning is more fun than losing. And so whenever a card makes you win, let it be by whatever, like locking your opponent out of the game or by just being very powerful. Um, it's always going to be one side complaining and the other side having the time of their life, right?
Yep.
And to an extent, that sort of stuff is normal. I feel like in the specific case of floodgates, though, I personally don't feel like it's super fun to flip a floodgate and just win the game with it because it doesn't even feel like you've done anything special. But
Yeah, fair enough. But it's tough because it's like, does it feel better to lose a game when you die from like your opponent killing you, or does it feel worse? The question should be feel worse. Does it feel worse to get lethaled on, or does it feel worse to get floodgated on? Right, you're losing the game regardless. It's
yeah,
just
I
like
guess.
which
But
one's more
I feel
apparent?
people just feel more frustrated when they get floodgated because it gives them that feeling of I never had a chance to begin with. I couldn't even play. But
Fair,
yeah.
fair. So when you lose a game, it's like, oh, at least I didn't get stuck, and then lose
We've
the game
talked
from
about
that.
this in the past with Nadir on the podcast, where like we feel like even if you lose, it still matters how much interaction. Like interaction is what makes card games fun. Um, and cards that inherently don't promote interaction are not great for the game.
See, it's weird that you say that as a Yu-Gi-Oh player because I feel like the most fun aspect of Yu-Gi-Oh is just absolutely rolling your opponent on turn one, and
Well,
then
I mean, I don't want to argue about it too much, but it's I think it's a very it's a very beginner perspective to have on the game.
Whoa, bro called him a
In the
beginner.
nicest way possible, without stirring
all
the
right,
pot too much.
I'll be back. I'll be back next week with the slideshow.
Okay.
It's a really interesting thing you brought up, and I guess that's actually like that. I just had a very big eureka moment there, which is like in the design of card games, like who do you prioritize, the player or the opponent?
Well, that was a good point. Yeah, we haven't talked about that one before.
Yeah, that's actually like really sort of blown my third eye open there, because I think Yu-Gi-Oh is an extreme of the former, where it is very much, I think, designed around the player rather than the opponent. So I think that's one of its best, but I guess maybe its worst things. For me personally, this is going to be really, just while we're signing off with our favorite and least favorite mechanics in card games, I'm going to be like, this, again, this is super controversial. This might
If
be
you
a
say Block
surprise.
Dragon, I'm leaving the call.
But I think rotation is low-key really good. It's
Big.
the idea that you can, like, you know, jump into a new format and feel like you aren't catching up to some extent. Because I feel like, especially today in Yu-Gi-Oh, a lot of players
Chat. Kill him with hammers.
I think a lot of
yeah, go on.
I think a lot of players today, for Yu-Gi-Oh especially, and because you mentioned that barrier to entry, I think they jump into the game today, and, you know, there's a format of, like, Snake Eye and, like, a couple of things here and there, but then there's, like, okay, well, now I need to learn how to play against Branded, a deck that was created, like, 3 years ago. I need to learn, like Sword Soul just top Dutch nationals. You play against Sword Soul, and it's like, well, I don't know what to stop here. There's, like, this deck was made, like, 4 years ago. Like, do you know what I mean? And I think that's, like, a really advantageous thing. And it's also a really good, what's the word? Kind of, like, preventative method, where if there's anything too stupid or too ridiculous that almost gets, like, accidentally made, you can just rotate it out eventually. Like, you know, it just won't be there forever. So I think that's like, low-key. Go on.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I do support that argument. I'm not saying, like, I think it is, Yu-Gi-Oh is not a bad game because it doesn't have rotation, but I do think rotation has a lot of positives. Rotation also has negatives. I don't want to get, dude, this, it's going to be another podcast if we start now. But I do agree that rotation has a lot of positives. Let's just keep it at that. Okay, let's call it a day with that. It does have its positives, and if you don't see that, I think you're being ignorant. But I've tried introducing my my fiance to different card games, and the amount of cards she has to read when we want to play Yu-Gi-Oh, she tells me from the get-go, I don't want to do that. But we've tried other card games, and that works.
Literal allergies, it.
That's so funny. I have a quick question for the emotes in this chat. How come MBT's face is the jackass emote?
No real reason about that. Don't say that out loud.
Oh my god. Redacted.
I'm trying to think of, like, my least favorite. I mean, yeah, like, I guess, like, other than just, like, repeating, like, Floodgates. But I feel like when I was playing, like, and again, it's a very minimal amount of Magic that I've played, but just having these blank cards that don't do anything that you just have to use, like, just felt really kind of, like, boring and lame, and I did not think it was interesting. I just, deck building wise, gameplay wise, I don't think land is an interesting mechanic. But again, my opinion and my perspective, I just think it's a terrible mechanic.
Personally, I think you're wrong, but it's fine.
Farfa called Magic trash. Get him. Get him.
It's really funny because I've upset everyone with my takes because I've promoted Magic with set rotation and I've shot it down.
Your takes are good. Don't worry. I don't say this very often. Clip it and ship it, but that take was good.
All right. Yeah, this is our longest podcast ever, which is
this was fun, dude. I love yapping about card games.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely like a part 2 that we should probably explore at some point. But, you know, Raran, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show.
Thanks for having me. Good combos, man. Josh, nice to meet you. What are you laughing about there? But yo, you fixed your internet, by the way. What the hell's going on over there?
Dude, I've been having drops for like weeks now. I'm getting a new modem tomorrow. Hopefully that'll fix it. Don't get me started. That's another podcast. Anyway. So if you guys have been watching or listening along on Spotify and on the YouTube channel, check the description down below. You'll find the socials for Raran's Twitch channel and YouTube channel, which you can find him streaming, I think, daily on, right? Almost daily?
No.
Really? I swear, I feel like I see you streaming like very often.
Listen, I can give you a rant recently, but it really depends on the state of Hearthstone, how much I'm streaming.
Yeah, because I'm not gonna lie, I've seen you in that Slay the Spire category more than Hearthstone this last 2 weeks.
Dude, I'm telling you. Okay, sorry, game is goated. Continue.
Game is goated. All right, thanks everyone for tuning in. Peace out, and we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
All right, see ya.